This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from across the iRacing world, and welcome to the Major Series European Split for today's action from the beautiful Michigan International Speedway in the Irish Hills of Michigan. Today, some of the top European drivers in all of iRacing buckle up and get set to go full throttle around this 2-mile circuit at Michigan International Speedway for the 2019 edition of the Michigan 400. And you'll see it from green flag to checker flag, your RaceBot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. It's a hot racetrack in Brooklyn, Michigan today, as 40 of the top racers across iRacing get set to go for what should be a challenging race and a quick-paced race. I'm Justin Prince on 7 The Move. Today is Cameron Walsh with Hugh Ruiz in the director's seat. It's going to be a heck of a race. Drivers going near full throttle around this entire racetrack, Cam. It's going to be curious to see what happens here with the favorite being just so happens to be the points leader entering today, Christian Chaloner.
Yeah, I can't say I'm too surprised, but I will throw this out there that qualifying, it's very important points you see on your screen right there. Other names I'm looking at, I'm hoping Joshua Wolf or maybe Gabriel Roos can have a good day, as they are normally doing very well on the ovals, but this is the thing that will always happen, is that Michigan, it is going to end up being busy. If you can break away, that's great, and I do believe there will be some breaking away, but there's any instances of wrecks, any cautions, anything like that, you'll have to deal with restarts and a lot of traffic on a track that seems wide but tends to not actually have as much elbow room as you think.
Team standings up on your screen. Kinetic Europe at the top of the board entering today. And they're one of their drivers today, who just so happens to be in the eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series in Chaloner, will lead them to the green flag today. Bombshell Motorsports, Grizzly Motorsports, and Can-Am Racing round out the top 4 in the point standings for the teams entering today's action. But the drivers are getting ready on the grid. That means it's time to take a look at how the drivers qualify throughout the week for today's running of the Michigan 400. On the pole today, the driver for JTD Dordery Racing in the eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series, Christian Chaloner, will start on the pole today, with Adam Ponti, one of the top drivers in practice laps. Starts on the outside of the front row. Osman Walsh will start in third today, with Brian Barney rounding out the top 4 starting positions. In 5th spot, it's Michael Lane, with Troy Anderson starting on the outside of row 3. Row 4 will see Lonnie Finch start alongside one of the drivers for the eNASCAR Ignite Series, Riley Thompson. But rounding out the top 10 starting positions, Shane Norden will start alongside Andreas Robertson. Here, Cam.
Yes, and as the cars are rolling out, I will say this is going to be just another one of those instances where we could have a lot of restarts here, Justin. And if we have a lot of restarts, I have to say we might be having one of those races that is considered to be a long, long day for these drivers.
A lot to talk about. The grid continues to scroll along the drivers in the back half of the top 20. Joshua Wolf starting in 16th position. You've seen Velarde starting in 13th spot. Tom Drelling will have to start in 18th alongside Hirokos Putuklis, with David H. Baker and Brian Barnes rounding out the top 20. Clapper Ball will also have to work his way from the back in 21st alongside Wyndon Swaby. Cordell Cologne will start in 23rd. Majak Hasek will start 24th. Trevor Borowski in 25th, with Jared Morgan in 26th. Whereas the drivers continue to circulate around, again, a gigantic field today for what will be a very fast track. However, 200 laps, 400 miles, with one of the largest fields we've seen all season. Everyone getting all set to go here today for what should be a wild one for Michigan International Speedway. A lot of drivers going to have to work through a lot of traffic today, including guys like Patrick Neese that have shown speed on the ovals, but the drivers are all set to go. Christian Chauanier will lead them to the green flag as he gets all set to go at the head of the field. Who will take the Michigan 400 this season? Christian Chauanier hits the loud pedal. We're underway on RaceBot TV and the iRacing Esports Network for the European Majors Michigan 400. And Chauanier with a great start at the front of the field. Walsh already ducks down to second. Fasciaponte drops to third. With a lot of drivers not getting the best of starts. Fourth on back though.
Yeah, and I will say at that start, basically, it was Chandler Walsh and Fasciaponte. They all just went right to the inside line. They're going to stay to the inside line, and I am seeing that these cars are already starting to track up with the speed. Now, I'm sure once the cars come into their own, it'll be a little bit different, but everyone just seems to be wanting to get to that lower line, whereas I can see basically it goes all the way back to Brian Barney in fifth, is basically the beginning of that outside line.
And already one of the drivers you see on the top line, you see him in the second car in that groove just about, or was in the shot there, starting to try and charge up. That was Riley Thompson. Drivers already side by side, about fifth on back. One of the main things, though, when it comes to this draft package, it's your Cam. You kind of want to try and get first off single file early, but second, the more you battle and the more you side draft in turn, the more time you'll lose.
Yeah, most definitely, and I do seem to think I was expecting kind of the inside line to just pack up together and start pulling away, which while they have a little bit, it certainly isn't what I was expecting, because the outside line is still working all right. Michael Lane, who it just went a little bit wide there, and at 0.3 wide, and now we have had an incident here on the backstretch.
And it's a major one, a big one to start the race on lap 3. Caution flag is out. And this is one of the things that you can see happen with this package. Crazy restarts and starts overall. And that time, it was Riley Thompson trying to take the outside line, Michael Lane trying to come up the block, and bye-bye field.
Yeah, and I whether it was trying to block or just trying to slide in, I'm not sure, but either way, these two cars just wandered just enough to where they were making contact with each other, and yeah, we have had a big one already. It's a little too early for my voice box here to get all excited, but yeah, I will say, I would probably put 6, 7, 8, 9 cars, maybe 10 or 11 that are involved. But for the most part, what will happen, however, is that a lot of these drivers do have that one free repair, which they most certainly will use. It's just you'd rather not use it 3 laps into the race.
Yeah, there is a lot of drivers that will have to use them. You can see damage for guys like the 48 machine you've seen there. The bright side is about 5th on back got through cleanly. Christian Chauanier leading every single lap so far as he tucks in behind the pace car. But again, it is the Michigan 400 today for those just tuning in here on the iRacing Esports Network. And of course, that means 400 miles, 200 laps here on this circuit. 2 miles the distance on the racetrack, 18-degree turns, 12-degree banking at the start and finish line, just 5 degrees down the back stretch. But all the drivers coming down towards the pit lane, and there's going to be an issue because Wolf has blown his engine right past just before the commitment cone and has checked up the entire field behind him.
Yeah, thankfully we're all under caution here. I don't think anyone's actually hit each other, so that's always a good thing. But as you can see, everyone is staying to the right side as much as they can. Just about everybody that was involved coming in. I think the only car not behind the pace car is, or the only car that is behind the pace car is Thomas Pedersen, oddly enough. But I will say it does look to me like a couple of cars might have gotten out ahead of Christian Chauanier, but don't get too excited because I believe that those were the cars that were already 1 lap down because of the incident. And so it is going to be Christian Chauanier and Oyson Walsh.
Yes, indeed. You see more drivers coming in, but a lot of others Having the air take faster pairs are still trying to even find their way onto the jacks. A gigantic field, though, and this is going to be one of the main things I think drivers are going to have to think about is patience today. It was ensured in the drivers' meeting to think big picture and be patient in the moves to try and save your tires, because with this package, while you can go full throttle majority of the racetrack, Cam, if you try and attack too early or be too aggressive early, you'll burn up the tires and then fall backwards. And then it'll be harder to try and keep up with this man in the 73.
Yeah, most certainly, and it's one of those situations where you have to wonder. I don't think anyone is thinking that this isn't Christian Challenier's race to lose sort of thing. Obviously, with it being stock cars, with it being racing, with it being a 200-lap race, just having the fastest car isn't what you need. We've got, 200 laps, and we've already done 6 of them, so we've only got 194 to go, Justin. So, I mean, this race is basically almost all the way over. Now, it's one of those situations where you can have somebody with a lot of speed. You can have somebody with the ability to go through the traffic and know how to drive the car like Christian Challenger does. The thing is, anything can really happen, and especially if we've got to start getting into restart after restart, as the lights are out on the pace car, and it looks like Thomas Pedersen is going to be the leader.
That's because, Cam, he stayed out here, so he's taking a bit of a gamble, it looks like here. We only ran a couple laps, however, that's going to be something to watch for in the long run. The driver's now circulating behind the pace car here, and it looks like a lot of them still trying to figure out where exactly they're supposed to start all of a sudden here. So Peterson's going to have to start here, it looks like, in the first position. Robertson has tucked up to the outside line on the front row. And drivers still trying to figure out, I think, where they're supposed to be here behind the pace car. This is going to get very interesting here already. Just 6 laps coming to 7 laps into 200 the distance today, as Peterson gets ready to hit the loud pedal here at Michigan. The No Emission Motorsport Chevrolet Camaro waits as the pace car drops off the track as they roll towards the Geico restart zone here in Michigan. Hits the gas early. We're back racing from Michigan. And a giant jump for Peterson with a bit of congestion behind. However, this is going to be curious to see how this will be once he reaches turn 3, Cam.
Yeah, everybody basically not having the reaction time that Pedersen did, but I will say, once they get into corner number 3, everyone's going to slap back. You can basically see almost everyone is single file from the entirety of the top 10, actually, as Christian Challenger. I don't think he minded too much there. He was able to keep his inside line as Oyson Walsh ducks in behind Christian Challenger, as Andreas Robertson, will continue to hang on that outside line, but Tom Jelling goes to his inside. Trevor Vovorski, one of the first Grizzly cars that I've seen, is getting into that slot, and here comes the pack, and that's kind of what you see. It's pack racing, but it's on a big, short oval.
Indeed, and there goes Challenger up to the race lead, passing him by like he's sitting still. Walsh follows on through. Passiaponte also trying to follow through as Trevor Bobrovsky tries to push the 84, ducks behind the 7 once more. They're side by side as Walsh takes the lead for the first time today.
Yeah, and you do wonder if these guys are going to start doing this, how popular that is going to be, just the constant shuffling lead, because that certainly could happen. Here comes Trevor Vovorski. He wants to lead a couple of laps here on the outside, as it's Oyson Walsh. It almost looked like he went to block, but really I think he was just doing the address that you need in order to get the corner. And here comes Trevor Vovorski. I think he might do the over-under, and he's actually going to do a little bit of bump drafting with the 842.
Trying to give him a shot as Challenger moves back up to third spot. Bobrovsky moves to the bottom side, trying to take the race lead early for his number 10 Chevrolet Camaro, side by side with the TDR machine. Challenger tries to fall behind as they side by side of the stripe. Walsh leads this lap this time by. However, it looks like Challenger being a little bit patient, just waiting for the opportunity to strike and retake that opportunity up at the point.
Well, another thing, though, it seems like pretty much everybody's gotten along here. Down to 13th, there's a big gap, and then you've got 16th in the rest of the field. I will say, it seems that we have might have a bit of a long green flag run. So if I was Christian Chandler, I would almost look to do the fuel saving thing. But for Walsh, I almost think he's seeing that coming. He kind of ducks to the inside. He knows that the cars behind him are going to have the overspeed, and Christian Chandler is going to go pass on the outside now for the lead, but it's not going to hold as Walsh's tires are still good on the inside.
Yeah, the thing is, how long can he keep defending? Eventually, that top side's going to get a run. It does get a run. Challenger to the race lead. Bobrovsky gives him the shot as the 73 gets back up to the point for Kinetic Racing Europe. So Challenger had just dropped out of the lead for just about a couple laps, and will now have to defend 2 lines of traffic as Walsh tries to now make it 3 wide for the race lead. Inside Walsh, Challenger middle, outside Bobrovsky, that time by the lap went to Challenger, but Bobrovsky takes the point into turn number 1.
And Walsh smartly backing out of that one there as Christian Challenger will get the speed on the inside line, but Vovorsky should get a good run on the outside as they run down the backstretch one more time. Adam Fasciaponte has gotten the draft there, and he decides to stick behind Christian Challenger. That hangs Trevor Vovorsky out to dry, and you can see just how important it is to have that one car behind you, as Vovorsky is now going to see if he wants to slide in behind Christian Challenger. Nope, that's not going to happen, and I will say, I do see that lime green car of Tom Drelling. He's kind of trying to make the decisions of where he wants to move, maybe in a lap or 2 ahead. And that's the thing you have to do, Justin. You got to really kind of plan your lane, plan your maneuvering, and plan your draft, just like you would at a super speedway, but we're at really a standard track. Yes, of course, it's 2 miles, but it's what you consider to be a much more traditional track, as Trevor Vovorsky has a massive overspeed, but can't do anything with it. And so we'll continue to run 2 by 2.
Adam Fasciaponte wants to try and take the lead, has drafting help from Walsh. Bobrovsky trying to help Challenger on the top side. This time by the 73 takes the lead once more as Bobrovsky continues to draft. The thing is, though, you mentioned they're thinking big picture to plan out the passes. Eventually, though, in about 5 laps or so, the tire wear is going to start settling in, and that's where the drivers are going to start spreading out. And the drivers, say, fighting on the bottom and trying to fight side by side, are going to start feeling the ramifications from trying to be too aggressive too early as you look on board as the caution flag comes out of the back of the field. Caution flag is out. Luis Area is out, brings it out in the 770 machine.
Yeah, Louis Area ends up, I think he took a little bit of a bite out of Sam Wheatley's machine. I don't know, it's Sam Wheatley. The tail kind of started to wash out on him there, and it kind of really drove him down to the inside line, and he didn't really do a correction. I don't think he saw Louis there, and Louis ended up going right hard into the safer barrier. He would have been able to drive it kind of around, but he hit a massive bump in that very large pavement-y section there, and he just slams right to the outside wall. Now, this is the concern. Was he involved in the previous incident, and did he use his fast repair? Nope, he did not. So good on him to save that, but I will say he'll have to drop to the back of the pack, but this does reset the front of the pack.
Yeah, that means everyone's going to be bunched up once more and all back on the same strategy to be able to take 4 tires and fuel. Christian Challenger back up to the point with Walsh up to second and with the caution flag. Third puts Fasciaponte up to that spot for Bobrovsky. Robertson rounds out the top 5. Remember, the 7 car of Peterson stayed out, had started 33rd in the race today. But Peterson, with the strategy, and because the time of the caution, I think, Cam, was able to jump all the way into the top 8 to take advantage of that. Got the caution at the right time as everyone gets the 4 tires and fuel once more.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody coming in. This is not even a question. As you can see, everyone hanging on the right side. It was very clear in the drivers' meeting to make sure that you're doing that. Now, the 73 pulls into his pit stall here. That is, of course, the number 1 pit stall, and this is going to be the battle between him, Adam Fasciaponte, and Oyson Walsh as the pit crews are all working around. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Christian Challenger out. I see his jack on the left sides are up first, and Walsh, I think, is actually going to be able to jump Adam Fasciaponte. Oh, well, he was ahead of him anyways, but I will say Trevor Vavorsky, he came in 14th position. I think he's going to come out in 4th.
Remember, he was in the top 5 before he came down the pit lane there, so a little bit of a disparity there, pardon us there. But either way, everyone able to get 4 tires and fuel once more. No one taking the risk of strategy since we turned a ton of laps. Should note we have a couple drivers already having to potentially here take waves or be a lap down in this race. The drivers are lap down already. Shane Norden, area, I should say, after taking the faster pair in tow, and Brian Barney, who is 2 laps down. Mike Gaunt missed the start here. You see those drivers at the head of the field now. Just 16 laps in, though, here, Cam, and we've seen a lot of craziness on these starts so far, and have not gotten our first long green flag run at this point. What are your thoughts on this race here for today's running of the Michigan 400?
Well, we've had about 13, 14 laps of green, so we've gotten the start down pat. I will say it was pretty interesting to see just how racy everyone was. I know with the qualifying times we were kind of expecting Christian Chandler to have a powerful car. He does. He can make the car move wherever he wants to go. It seems to be comfortable on the inside, seems to be comfortable on the outside. The tail seems planted, which is very important. A lot of these cars, I think, once the tires start wearing out, you'll see that rear starting to kind of skip to the outside on the corner exit there. But I will say, for Oyson Walsh, Adam Fasciaponte, I mean, Trevor Vavorsky, pretty much everyone in the top 5, top 6, we're all running comfortably in a pack. And once you know that they can run comfortably in a pack, you're going to see that. I expect to see that pretty much all race long.
I kind of expect to see the same thing as well. It's going to be absolutely crazy, though, as this race goes on. The thing is, though, once we get a green flag run, I think that's where we see a lot of drivers potentially try and pull away and go from there. And that's where I think the real speed's going to come in. We'll have to see who's able to step up, though. Of course, Challenger, one of the favorites coming into today. We talked a little bit before the race, though, about guys like Walsh, as well as, before that incident, Riley Thompson being some of the other favorites based on their experience on the ovals. Who else do you feel, so far in the early going, we should keep an eye on?
Well, it's not so much the speed of who to lead, it's the speed of who is going to be the pushers, as it were. And looking at that 06 of Tom Drelling, you haven't seen him running up front, but however, he has been able to start maneuvering the lines. You can pick whether you're hitting the inside or the outside. He's kind of been the tail end of this front pack, and that is an extremely important position to have, frankly, because you can decide which line over the course of the next lap, over the course of the next 2 laps, will end up having the drafting, the speed, the rear push, and Tom can really influence all of that as the lights do go out on the Mustang pace car one more time. It's just these back cars, the back 5, it's very important to be watching them as well.
One driver did take the wave around Chenault. Shane Norden back on the lead lap is going to have to hope for a caution with the worn tires. But this is going to be curious to see how the drivers react again. This is going to be the third total start, second restart of the day coming up. With Challenger on the inside line, Walsh outside of row 1. Fasciaponte for Broski, 3rd and 4th, for Verde in 5th. Robertson 6th, Relling in 7th. Hayden Pastorius has quietly moved into the 8th spot, with Peterson and Putikos rounding out the top 10 positions on the racetrack. Again, lights are out on the pace cars. We get back underway with 182 laps to go. And so far, we've seen a couple early starts here. And surprisingly, compared to some of the other races at Michigan, Cam, they haven't gotten to where it's the 3 wide we've seen in some of the other events. Curious to see what happens, though, with Challenger back in control of the field in the 73 machine. Pace car moves its way off the racetrack as they head towards the Geico restart zone once more at Michigan. Challenger hits the loud pedal, green flags out, back racing we go as Drelling didn't get a good start in row 3 and has checked up the bottom line. Everyone else, though, side by side.
I will say that was an absolutely fantastic gun from Walsh, Fasciaponte, and Vavorsky. I am surprised Christian Chandler was not able to get anywhere. When we saw Thomas Pedersen do it on that the first initial restart, he was able to get a 5-6 car length lead. Right now, Christian Chandler, on the other hand, is right in already. Busy traffic. Fasciaponte through the bumps is already giving him a bump draft, and the outside line of Vavorsky and Walsh seems to be coming in as well. So very interesting to see, as far as I'm concerned, just how well everyone else was able to call the leader's gun.
Walsh takes the lead at the stripe that time by, and there's a reason, Cam, that drivers have said many times they don't want to be the leader with this package. Even if you get an early start, the downforce, especially with that back spoiler, and the draft will pull them right back to you. And now that draft is working on the top side as Walsh, Vavorsky, as well as Fasciaponte all try and clear by Challenger, just the top two to do so, as Challenger keeps it on the bottom side and tries to follow the 10.
And the Sim Mortal car of Tom Drelling was going to slot in behind Christian Chalmier, but everyone on the high side went into the low side. So that's kind of another thing. Once you get cleared enough, you can really throw that entire line into disarray just by making your line decisions, as Vavorsky stays on the outside, Walsh stays on the inside, and it's a trio of Camaros fighting a couple of Toyota Camrys still, as Christian Chalmier will come right on back. See, that's the other thing that makes Michigan super exciting, is that yes, you can get ridden like the whole train thing where everyone goes by on one side of the lane, but however, the recovery span is much faster, as you can already see Christian Chalmier pushing Trevor Vavorsky to the lead.
And Vavorsky up to the race lead with that help as they go back into turn 1. Right now, Challenger, though, still trying to follow on behind. One car getting shuffled up the top of the racetrack, though, but that's one of the Kinetic Racing Europe machines that has lost a lot of time. That was Pudaklis. That got shuffled all the way to the back half of the top 20 as the leaders continue to try and shuffle now for third spot. There's Pudaklis. Remember, he was in 9th spot last time by, but Challenger tries to battle and defend, while Walsh tries to work on his own on the bottom side.
Yes, and while that's going in the front, in position number 5 is João Valverde. He started in 13th position, and Hayden Pastorius has been following this whole time. He started in 12th position. They're now 5th and 6th. They're side by side, and they are right now locking into the rear here. We did have, as one car gets way loose coming off the corner here, he saves it. Who is that on the inside of the backstretch?
That was Stefan Wayne, actually, the 85. That was one of the no-emission motorsports machine that I think had some right side damage. The 85 was side by side and has dropped out of the top 30. That was because of contact, though, with Mason Martzoff. Off of turn 2.
And for Sam Wheatley, you want to get a replay of Sam Wheatley's on board. My goodness me, how he managed to save that one. He saw that coming, and once he saw that car hit the outside wall, he just continued to drive way to the inside. Here you go. He sees it coming, and he makes the only move he can make to prevent a large incident from happening. So kudos to Sam Wheatley for keeping this thing green.
And that was a lot of craziness. Yeah, you can see how low Wheatley had to go down on that apron to make sure his car didn't get destroyed. Now he's going to keep on chugging. By the way, the race lead is getting chaotic. It is side by side, 3 rows deep, with cars giving shots hard into turn 1. Valverde got a huge shot for the back end of Robertson as they go side by side for the point. Walsh on the inside line, Challenger on the inside as they pull away from Hayden Pastorius, who has moved up to 3rd, and so 3 wide down the backstretch with Thompson trying to move up.
Yeah, and Majak Kuziak is what the middle car from that run, and Riley Thompson, he's going to let that speed carry him through. Now is Kuziak going to have to yield? No, he's not going to. They're going to continue to be 3 wide with Adam Fasciaponte. They're just hanging just enough on the outside that Kuziak can't take the outside line. He finally gets that slotted in away as this was all basically unfolding right before 8th position's eyes here of João Valverde, but the front of the field is still running strong here. You've got Walsh on the inside, Chandler on the outside, and it looks like almost, I would say, if you were Chandler, I would consider to stay on the outside to force Walsh, who obviously has the speed to hang with him, to use up his tires. And here comes Hayden Pastorius, like you said, started in 12th position, and Trevor Vovorski, who started in 25th, is right there with him.
And it's getting more and more crazy up towards the point, as that is Kuziak that is now following in that 4th position. That is that yellow and blue machine in the Ford Mustang that's backing off into the corner. But right now, just a couple laps from the tire wear potentially kicking in. You mentioned the top line basically being preferred. Once that kicks in, Challenger looks like he knows this, going to the inside, trying to go off the slight jump of the entry. Able to retake the point away from Walsh. And now it's going to be the point can he defend the race lead here early on. You can see him move up towards that wall. Once the tire comes in, Cam, it's tough to try and clear if you're on the bottom because there's more speed up on the exit off the top.
Yeah, most definitely, and it's all really dependent on who's behind you. And I will say Hayden Pastorius really hasn't been locking in like we've seen these other cars do, so Walsh will slot on in ahead of Challenger, and rather than use that speed to kind of do an over-under, Christian Challenger will instead slot behind Otis Walsh. So not a bad thing at all. And when we're talking about Kenny, well, the number 84 car is all orange, so don't jinx it, because if something would happen there, that'd basically be the entire field again. But I will say, after that rush of side-by-side action, everyone seems to be pretty content. I think they kind of realized what had happened. The tires are starting to kind of slide off a little bit, and Riley Thompson is running in that 5th position. Then you pretty much everybody now running single file line, and that's almost quite a bit of a relief.
Yeah, and this is what was to be expected, though. Once they reach this mid-tier run, about past lap 10, once the drivers settle on down, single file would be the name of the game, and then it would be basically who are your friends you can work with. Looks like all the drivers are starting to settle on in to do that as they settle into the drafting lines. Top 5 are in a group, and it looks like that's about to turn into 6 cars. 7th on back, though, would be a bit of a concern. You look on board with the 8th place machine, though. The Bird is currently in that 381 in the 9th spot and trying to somehow close up some time here on the back end of Robertson.
Yeah, and right now, between that, Valverde's trying to maybe look to the inside. Trevor Vovorski, he was right up front there. Actually, quite a couple of these cars were right up front. Tom Drelling, Trevor Vovorski, they were right up front. Now they're in the kind of the back half, and now they're almost losing the positions here. You can see you've got a 5-car breakaway basically up until the number 20 car of Kuziak, and that is completely, totally not how you pronounce that name. But I will say Andrews Robertson, on the other hand, is moving to the inside line. I think he wants to get on by the number 20 machine and start catching this 5-car train, because once that leading train, Justin, checks out, there's really no catching them.
You hit it right on the head, actually. How much time is the difference between the first group and the second group already? 1 second, the difference. 0.2 a lap quicker are those drivers in the lead group. But that's about to change, because Challenger wants the race lead and wants it now. Dives into the inside line. Can't clear by Walsh, though, so he'll have to check back up. Ponte will let him back into line in the orange Toyota Camry, though. So it looks like Christian is starting to get a little bit impatient. But as I mentioned, it's difficult to pass in this mid to long run. If you're on the bottom, you need to get to that right rear quarter panel and force the driver in front to the middle to bottom to be able to get the job done, I think.
Well, that, or you kind of need to get the pass nearly completed before you hit the exit, because right in about the last 80% of that corner, the outside line is what comes in. Now, I will say, even the inside line, you can start to see the tail starting to kind of drift up a little bit, and the cars are kind of having to chase their tails, which is exciting for us as fans, but is absolutely terrifying as far as if you're actually driving these cars. I will say. But for Christian Chandler, I think right now he might be pretty comfortable right now with being in that second position. He did try to make the charge, but he didn't have Bastianini right to your rear bumper. I think at this stage you really need somebody on your rear bumper, and here he comes again. The car getting a little loose, I would almost say, on the corner entry. I saw his his nose kind of do a big wiggle there, but he wasn't able to get any of the speed. I think maybe he had to check up or what, but I will say, oddly enough, we seem to have lost one of the cars from this 5-car pack, and that's Hayden Pastorius.
Yeah, Pastorius has lost some time, lost the 10th last time, is now fallen back to a 4-car train, that 921 up on your screen. Battle for third now on. This might break up the lead group even more so if it takes too long. Thompson wants to try and leapfrog the 84 machine. Decides against it, though, as he tucks back into line. The drivers, again, back to single file in the lead group. They're running 39 3s to 4s, by the way, in that part of the group right now. The drivers behind them are in the 39 8s with Robertson as the lead group. So they're losing a lot of time, those drivers in the backdrop, the drivers in the forefront.
Yeah, most definitely. And just kind of looking further back now, you've basically got this 4-car train, one loose runner, the Hayden Pastorius, and then you've got another pack of cars still running. That's Andreas Robertson. That's from 6 on back. These guys are still making moves as we're going on board with Travis Henderson, who is one of the Grizzly Motorsport cars. And it's just, you can start to really see just how the field is getting split up here. None of these guys are really sucking up like they were before to the rear bumpers, and that is really allowing this entire field to basically be single file. The only cars I can see really running too wide are actually the number 27, or position 27, number 425 car, and Michael Lane, the 62 car. These are really the only cars running side by side, and that's the very back of the pack.
Yeah, the more they run side by side, while they might be trying to gain positions, the more that's going to lose them time in the side draft, at least a couple tenths a lap from how long, depending on how long you battle with that said driver, as some of them try and get back to single file. Again, that's it for 28th spot. But I think all this shuffling with some of the drivers are starting to see moving and some of the drivers now falling back, though, here at Cam, kind of shows the differences between who has the best cars and some that might have had the good cars, so to speak. Or should I rather say short run to long run, because the drivers set up in the long run are the ones that are moving and pulling away and gaining time. The ones trying to set up for those 15-lap bursts are the ones going backwards.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I will say, up front, Christian Chalmier and Oysen Walsh have, for the last 2 laps, actually driven kind of around each other, and it might sound dramatic, but really it's not. It's kind of interesting, because every single back stretch to front stretch, they're actually passing each other, and I almost wonder if that's a not intentional, like they're working together and shaking hands, but you know, it's kind of it's not a bad thing. They're starting to get a bit of a gap to Adam Faccipponi and Riley Thompson, as they're both running side by side now, so that might come to skew. But it's interesting to see just how these cars are really, they seem to be very, very even. Normally, when you, like you were just saying, who has the setups that are good in the early run, who has the good setups in the late run, it's kind of maybe impressive. It would be a little bit too big of a word, but it's great to see almost that these two cars are really just about even.
Yes, indeed. They're side by side still, in fact, for the race lead. Thompson, meanwhile, in the backdrop, has moved up to 3rd spot in front of Faccipponi. As the Kinetic Racing Machine tries to defend the outside line, Walsh is on the inside. The reason they got to that position, Walsh ended up getting pushed up the track a couple laps ago. That allowed Challenger to get to the race point. You seen him about a lap ago. However, now, though, Walsh is trying to get that lead back. You can see him trying to side drop that left rear corner panel a touch. Sends it in deep in the middle line above that first seam, as they say, stay side by side. Even though they've been side by side, by the way, the 2 fastest cars here are still those 2 machines. They have broken the draft of 3rd on back as they continue to try and shuffle out.
Yeah, and it's basically been just, it almost looks like they're driving like pace laps almost. They're just side by side, like completely equal. And I think for Oyson Walsh, he's trying to see whereabouts he needs to plant that car, almost a bit of practice. We are on lap 41 of 200, so we're almost getting to that point of 150 laps. And we're almost getting to that point where I would suggest that green flag pit stops are not that far away, which would be a good thing to see, A, but B, would be even more of a split between these cars. And Justin, I don't think there's any questions you would be taking 4 tires.
Yeah, there's no question about it that you'll be doing that, as well as taking a full tank of fuel in these machines. They're still battling and shuffling, as a lot of the drivers are still single file in the back. Challenger has just about cleared on by for the race lead. On the inside, Walsh is still trying to defend hard, though, not going to give up the ghost, so to speak, as the TDR machine is looking very comfortable. This has honestly been the most comfortable I've seen a car run on the bottom for this long in a side-by-side battle in the entire year with this draft package in a cup car. Looking very comfortable, that 842 machine on the bottom side, but Challenger still trying to not give up the battle for the lead on the top side. Still side by side, gets the run, finally gets back towards single file. Walsh tried to send it hard on the inside, yes indeed, as they continue to shuffle with the clouds coming out. But to get back to your point there with the pit window, Cam, we are about, I'd say, about 20 laps or so, give or take, away from the drivers ducking down to get a full tank of fuel and fresh tires. And that's where a lot of drivers might separate themselves out from this craziness, such as this.
Most certainly, and that's Enrico Lionheart. As you can see, he's trying to drive around Tom on the outside line there. That's exactly what will happen. And I will say, I am just still so impressed by the fact that Walsh's car is still running the inside. Chandler's car is on the outside. These guys have run side by side for like 3-4 laps now. And I will say, Travis Henderson now, he's pulling out of pit lane here. He had come into pit lane, and his car had a significant amount of front damage. So I'm wondering what has happened to Travis Henderson's machine. Obviously, he had taken a route around something, unless he's been carrying that damage for a very long time, which it looks almost like he has been carrying that damage for about 3-4 laps now, and finally he just had enough. And I see what has happened. He ended up he was riding with Kusiak, that 20 car, that yellow and blue peak machine, and he ended up just driving hard into the rear of them. They've ended up bouncing off each other. Really a kind of a close call as far as an incident that could have brought out the caution.
Yeah, for reference sake, it looks like that was on lap 38, turn 3. We'll see if we can try and get a look. If not, we'll keep with this battle now for 12th position. As you can see, the draft following along. This driver also just so happens to have some damage. I believe that's Berval you're following along with, as they continue to try and find time somehow, some way to get back up to, say, those machines. By the way, Henderson had to come back down again, and it looks like he's out of the faster pairs. That's why he's having to deal with this damage. The thing is, though, you damage the nose, you end up having a lot of temperature issues. This is why Henderson is all the way back to 40th position now on the racetrack. You're going to see it on the entrance to turn 3 with that blue and yellow Menard-sponsored machine. And you're going to see it similar to one of the first cautions of the day. Outside is open. Driver tries to come up to keep the line. Bye-bye, front nose.
Yeah, and again, that is so fortunate that didn't turn into something bigger. It just it turned to be trying to run a little bit high, smashed into that outside wall. Both cars were able to recover in the sense that they weren't spinning out and causing an incident here. But yeah, just like that, you might have gotten the call from the spotter. The spotter might have called it clear, and that's that. And I will say, probably the biggest development thing is that Oyson Walsh has now decided he's had enough fun for one day, and he's going to sit now behind Challenger. But you can tell, and we can tell, the cloud coverage has gotten thick now, and that is going to change how the track temperature works, and that could certainly have an influence on not just all of these cars universally, but some of these cars more than others.
Absolutely. We've seen the temps before the green flag drop were in the upper 110s. Track temp has dropped to 107 degrees now for these drivers as they continue to cycle around the racetrack. With that 4-car lead group, that means the pace is going to go up a little touch as well. They're running 39 ones at the moment in the lead group. Again, that was about a couple tenths quicker than the last time we referred to that about 20 laps ago, even with the tire wear factored in. That's how much this track has cooled down.
Yeah, and it's just one of those situations where you can see the track temperature going down on our information screen, which is just impressive for me as a whole. You know, coming back from quote unquote the old days where this stuff never happened, but it still just absolutely excites me that the track is just changing. It's just so lively. And I will say, I almost think that it's Christian Chandlier's car right now, but I also think that maybe Oyson Walsh is just kind of relegated to it, doesn't want to use the tires or anything like that. And he's just going to sit in that second position until it comes time to come into pit. And I do feel that whenever that time comes, Walsh is going to be able to use the draft to get right up to the rear of Christian Chandler. And I know that as soon as Chandler comes into pit, he's going to follow.
Absolutely, that is, again, you need to basically pit with somebody with how this package is built. Should note, the 20-car Koziak did come into the pits. Remember, was the air driver involved in that incident who had that rear end damage and was immediately off the pace and losing multiple spots, and is now already ducking his way back into the pit lane in that car, already 36th position. One of the biggest movers, though, in the field is the 795 machine, and a driver from Sweden. It should still follow along with the 20 machine as it comes down into pit lane. One of the biggest movers, again, is the 795, and this is going to be Jacques Sherrow. A former professional drifter from Sweden has moved up from 39th and was second to last, mind you, on the grid, up to the 11th spot now in the field, and is still gaining some pace.
Yeah, Jacques Show, I think, is that somebody in the chats, of course, hello, has said that for us. So much appreciated because it's one of those, another thing. It's a word with letters with dots and places I've never seen them before. So we very much appreciate it. But I will say it is no small feat. Yes, there was a large incident in the beginning of this one, Justin, but you didn't gain 25 plus, 26 plus positions just on that basis. He has been absolutely moving through this field and around drivers that you would expect to be kind of your front runners in ovals too. So great on him. And I will say I do see a bit of a pack forming here right around Andreas Robertson and João Valverde, as it's the 381 and Andreas Robertson and the 333 working together, and Trevor Vorsky wants some of that action.
Yeah, it looks like Robertson is all of a sudden starting to fall off in the Total Downforce Racing Europe machine. Just decided to let by the 381. Now is going to have the 10 machine. Bobrovsky try and pass on by and is stuck side by side instead with the Kinetic Racing machine. It looks like Robertson, though, taking a look at the line he's running, he's going all the way up the track. He's almost looking like he's pushing tight. He nearly touched the exit wall and nearly hit Bobrovsky's quarter panel as a result. Looks like Robertson has really chewed up the right front tire.
Yeah, most certainly. And Robertson has been maneuvering that car pretty much through the pack before everyone went around. But I will say you can see how loose that 333 was coming off the corner there, coming up through the tri-oval here at Michigan. Well, it's not really much of a tri-oval, as I see one car crashing into the outside wall. It's Patrick Neese, the number 53 car, and this is going to be a caution at the worst possible time because there has been quite a couple of cars coming into pit lane, and this one is a very strange incident. I think it's somebody getting caught out by the apron.
Yeah, this was, again, a lap car, was letting drivers by, had severe damage, and then you can see him just hooked to the right trying to get in on the brakes. And nowhere to go for the drivers in the track. Michael Lane amongst the drivers involved in this one, who's already used his fast repair. So this is going to end a couple people's days, unfortunately. Patrick Neese, I don't know what to say with that one.
I think Patrick was coming into pit lane.
Yeah, he was. He definitely was.
And so he had one faster car of Enrico Leonhardt, who was not coming into pit lane on the inside. So I think what ended up happening is he had to do a big swing. But when you're coming in a big swing like that, your front tires and your rear tires are on a different pace now, because your front tires are on the apron, your back tires are on the banking still, and I think that just upset the car with whatever damage he has from earlier. And unfortunately for Michael Lane, really not much he could do there. That car is on the maximum of the suspension there, right on corner exit, and unfortunately all you could do is see the car getting bigger.
Yeah, that is a very weird one. Have to really say, it was just listening into the audio on my end of things too to see if he maybe shifted the gear. It just looked like it hooked straight to the right, and now that brings it to caution and everyone's able to come down to the pit lane. You're on lap 56 for fresh tires and fuel. Unfortunate though for a lot of drivers. You mentioned a few of them did duck down. A couple were actually coming into the lane at that time. 24 cars are on the lead lap at the time of the yellow flag. So a lot of drivers are going to be in a situation where they have to take a wave as the 84 overshoots the pit box.
Yeah, and so Christian Chalnier getting his work done right now as Jared Morgan exiting the pit lane, Christian Chalnier exiting the pit lane, and I almost think Riley Thompson might have gotten the jump on him. I don't think he did. He might have. He's positioning his car like he's going to stay ahead of Christian Chalnier, so hey, that might, unless, I don't think, Riley's not one of those cars that are a lap down, so that would be an interesting change of events here, and I'm looking at it. No, Riley did take 4 tires, so interesting to see how this front field is going to break out.
Well, Christian Challenger had a 16-second pit stop, Cam, that lost him the lead, 14-2 for Thompson, to be able to jump him up to the point here, but here's the thing, it's going to now be a interesting one for some of the drivers that came down to the pit lane that are going to be in front of the race leaders. We're talking at least 10 plus wave around cars that are going to need to hope that there's a quick caution to even get on the same tire cycle if they were amongst the drivers 2, 3, 4 laps down their window already.
Yeah, and that was just really unfortunate timing, because the rear of the field typically is the one that starts coming into the pits first. Kind of, it's a bit weird, but that's tends to what happened the last 5-10 cars. They start coming into pit lane, and then like right as that is ending, everyone from the front of the field comes on into pit lane as everyone catches up to the pace car right now. Of course, expertly piloted by, I don't know, it's the pace car guy. We've never named the pace car guy, have we? But I will say it's a badly timed caution, which is unfortunate. I really wanted to see how the green flags were going to run, but either way, it is certainly going to be a resetting caution for sure.
Yeah, and that means more craziness potentially on the restart here is, again, currently lined up behind the pace car, coming to lap 59 of 200 this time by 142 to go. Here on the iRacing Esports Network and RaceSpot TV, you're watching the Major Series European Split for the Michigan 400. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back after these messages. can't wait to see how those cars feel in the next little few weeks or so. The drivers getting all set to go get back on the lap pedal, meanwhile, as we're back racing for the Michigan 400 for the European split of the Major Series. Riley Thompson leads them into turn 1. Walsh on the inside line, Challenger on his own on the outside as the 3 TDR machines line up nose to tail and draft on by.
Yeah, and Hayden Pastorius there, he decides to duck on down to the inside, and Christian Chandler, not much he can do there, just slot on in. But I will say, for Kinetic Racing, the 381 Ojal Valverde is going to be the one that should be able to draft right on up to Christian Chandler, as I will say, it was a really quick breakaway here from like the top 4 or 5, but everybody's coming back now. Everyone's on fresh tires, everyone's ready to rock and roll, so let's hope, fingers crossed, everything stays, and we don't get another quick caution or another big incident, because Trevor Vovorski was almost going to think about taking that 3 wide through the middle, which thankfully he elected not to.
Drivers keeping it just double wide for the time being. Challenger back up to the point though. Will have to play defense though. Riley Thompson giving him a slight touch down the backstretch. Pastorius on his own. Walsh trying to fall on the outside line, pardon me. With Valverde on the inside for Kinetic Racing Europe, lined up with Alessia Ponti. Now turning into double wide, 3 rows deep for second on back as Thompson tries to get a run on the 73, elects to check up instead though, while Pastorius continues to try and own that bottom line and is looking to try and take the race lead. Looking for his first land laps of the day in the 921 machine, tries to slide up, trying to pull it off, can't clear on by though as Challenger kicks the outside line.
Ponti had an overspeed, by the way, in the middle of the corner, and so when he got to corner exit, he had to track out, and that has now started to bunch up the cars behind him, as in Vovorski, Drelling, Shaw, Wolf is there. As I do say, there is Joshua Wolf. You haven't really seen him yet today, but he might just be waiting for the time to come on by to start going, as there is 3 wide action between Enrico Leonhardt, Cordell Colon, and Andreas Robertson, but for the most part, it is just going to be Hayden Pastorius right now on that inside line.
Well, that's going to change with 2 drivers on the outside line. Challenger working with Osman Walsh. Side by side for second as Challenger able to drop down to the bottom, retakes the race lead for Kinetic Racing Europe in the 73 machine. And you mentioned drivers such as Wolf starting to come on. Remember, he was one of the drivers that had to take a fast repair early on after blowing their engine. Meanwhile, Walsh looking to blow by for the race lead. Working in the draft, trying to ride on the bottom side, able to take the lead right on back as they continue to swipe back and forth while they stay 3 wide behind with Faciaponti wanting to gain spots back up for Verde. Now forced to the inside line by the orange 84, where the race lead shuffles back once more with Challenger on the inside line of the TDR machine.
And Riley Thompson wanted to get some of that action too, but he ended up having to duck back in, and Oysen Walsh is sitting there, as it is Christian Chandler, and I'm surprised that João Valverde hasn't been maybe a little bit more aggressive to really try and force himself to get behind his teammate and Christian Chandler. They've got the Hayden Pastorius 921 in between each other, and João does seem to be falling back slightly. Thomas Pedersen's running that outside line. Here comes Riley Thompson with the overspeed again. Valverde will run up to the high side. Maybe that'll allow Thompson to get some of the draft off of Hayden Pastorius. It just doesn't seem to come to pass just yet, as they're almost looking to go 3 wide there with Adam Fasciaponti, but they will think better of it, thankfully.
And that time, Walsh pushed all the way up towards the fence that time. It almost looks like the cars are so loose they're tight at some points. Well, it's going to be tight for the lead again. 3 wide. Walsh on the outside. Pastorius on the inside. Challenger tries to thread the needle still as he's able to push on by. Heck of a checkup, though, from Pastorius, trying to run below the first seam to try and take the race lead. Doesn't work. Drops them all the way back to about him for 4th spot as they stay side by side for the lead.
Almost tried some dirt track in there where you throw in the overspeed and you hope their big right rear catches and kind of lets you track out in front of the car in front of you, and that's why you saw him enter the corner with so much speed and then the field go on back. It just didn't work out, but you know what? Valiant attempt, I will say, but what that has done is that's kind of put the field at least for 1 lap away and kind of settled back now, but for the most part, everyone's gotten right back to the point, as now it's Chandler on the inside. I will say João Valverde has now taken a bite out of Hayden Pastorius' machine, and I think Tom Drelling made contact with somebody too as they went 4 wide going into quarter number 3.
They almost did make contact. That was a checkup, I think, apart from the contact from Thompson. And now it looks like that's all stacked up a few drivers. You can see, though, the top 3, single file. They're not locking bumpers, should note. They are nearly doing so, though, as they stay behind Challenger. Pastorius in 4th. Valverde now up to the 5th spot with Drilling, trying to run the middle to high line in the 6th spot with Thompson looking to try and take it away. So now we're getting again towards that mid-run point where the tire wear starts to kick in. And that's where it's harder to pass if you're a lot of these drivers. And that's where we've seen the drafts break up and the packs start to form.
Yeah, and that's what happened on that initial nearly all green flag run. As I will say, Oyson Walsh is now locked right behind Christian Chandler's bumper. He's really basically riding the bumper there, and that is almost taking air off of the rears of Christian Chandler. But that car, that 73, is just so well planted through the corners that Walsh is just not able to really buckle that, as Adam Fasciaponte is slotted now comfortably in. It's basically single file all the way back to Corbin Solemson, 311 in the 29th position. But that's not a bad thing, I will say, especially with the action that we've seen here today, as Walsh is riding the super low inside there, Chandler almost running the super high outside, but they'll mingle themselves back in, and the gate 42 will get the position, and I think that's courtesy of Christian Chandler, because he certainly would have had the speed, Justin, but I think he just wanted to maybe start shuffling that car around, wants to maybe warm the tires or heat the tires up somewhere else, or maybe save a little bit of fuel, but well, he uses his speed to now run on the inside line.
And going back and forth again for the lead, this time Challenger able to slide back up in front of Walsh. Walsh, though, going to just work with the back end of the 73 machine in the draft, tucking behind both of them, driving Chevrolet Camaros at the front of the field. 130 to go this time by as they continue to shuffle forward and shuffle crazily for positions here at this point. Have to say, this has been a very entertaining battle between Walsh and Challenger since the drop of the green flag today. And were two of my favorites to keep an eye on in this race. The driver in 3rd, though, showed a lot of speed in qualifying and practice. Drivers are mandated to have 70 practice laps for each event, specifically this event, I should say, for the Michigan 400. He ran more than 700 in the unorthodox motorsports machine in preparation for today before getting on the outside front row in qualifying.
No, that's too many laps. The amount of commitment, and I think that that's something that's very important to talk about with the Major Series. If you're just finding the Major Series for the first time, first of all, where you been? Second of all, we're seeing this is a great run at Michigan here. These cars are battling each other. These cars are fighting each other. They're hooked up right. They're looking good to drive. And I will say that that's because these drivers do put in the commitment. The Major Series goes everywhere, whether it's Indy cars, dirt cars, short track, super speedways, Le Mans, sports cars, you name it. The Major Series has an event for it. Even the classic cars that we have in the iRacing service, they have races for. And that's what's so impressive, not just because these drivers are putting in so much time, but because it's such a multi-disciplined event or series that these drivers are able to repeatedly show up every single month, one race after the other, and do these extremely unique, extremely good events and put on a good show every single time, because this has been absolutely a wonderful show that we've seen here. Great battling up front, good battling in the middle of the pack, a couple of cautions to reset everything, and I have to say, with this cloud coverage coming in and out, it really does start to affect the movement of these cars. We're able to see it even with the cameras that we have in this beautiful oncoming tracking shot. As somebody, speaking of which, decides to go all the way to the inside line, as that's Jacques Show.
And Show, who was in 11th spot, ended up losing control off the corner That was where some of the heat was on the track. Looks like though he pushed up into the fence and had to work hard right to try and save it. So the former professional drifter from Sweden able to save the race car from the inside barrier.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect to need to throw the wheels. Look at the wheel here on the gyro cam. You wouldn't expect to have to throw the steering wheel into the wall and in order to save it, but that is exactly what he had to do. And so great save for him. But we do have a caution out on the racetrack as there's I see a big old smoke screen as Jalvo there.
So caution flag is out for the 381 who was in 7th spot. So the field is frozen. That was in the second group. And this is because you're going to see this on the replay. Madness. They were going 3 wide in this battle on the exit of turn 2.
Yeah, and it was just Andreas Robertson had a little bit of overspeed, and I think João Valverde just washed out just enough, and I think he was expecting perhaps with the overspeed he was going to have a little bit more of a gap, but Tom Drelling, it was basically wheel-to-wheel contact, and for Tom Drelling, I mean, you kind of feel bad. There's really not much you could have done in any of those situations other than slow down because Andreas Robertson and João Valverde both took significant damage in that scrap, and I will say, good on the rest of the field, though Tom Drelling did end up getting hit by Claude Belval, and Belval did pick up a significant amount of front-end damage on his machine post-incident, but for the most of the field, they were able to get by cleanly.
And that's going to shuffle up a few spots, to say the very least, inside that top 10 with this caution flag. It comes out with 124 to go this time by, so everyone, once again, gets ready to roll down the pit lane. Should note, we mentioned again the practice laps totals coming into today. The most in the entire week in all the splits was Michael Lane, who again is out of the race at the moment, who had more than 1,000. Some others were in the 800 bracket for today's race to try and prepare as everyone tries to duck their way into the pit boxes. Once again, all drivers were mandated to stay on the right side of pit lane, like in real life, before going into their stalls just a few away from their respective box. The 84 again overshoots the pit sign for the second straight pit stop. So that's going to lose Fasciaponti some more spots on the pit lane potentially here. Drivers now working their way towards the line. Challenger, the first driver out of the stalls, while second, Thompson, Pastorius, as well as Fasciaponti round out the top 5 of the drivers outside the lane. Peterson, Vavrovsky, and Wolf also come out with Andy Banfield and Colin Martzon off the pit lane. So the drivers all settling back down the racetrack here in what has been a crazy one, to say the very least, in some of the caution flags here for the Michigan 400 for the European split. Of course, for those just tuning in, this is the second of 3 broadcasts. You'll see the major series on the iRacing Esports Network in the next couple days. Tonight, the American split takes place, hosted by the Global Sim Racing channel here on the iRacing Esports Network. That coverage starts off this evening around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, the international split was covered by SimSpeed last night and had a wild finish to decide it, where there was a 3-wide battle with cars crashing to the stripe before Mitchell Moore, came away with the checker flag last evening. So drivers, again, behind the pace car, a couple drivers will take the wave. Travis Henderson, Lyndon Swaby, Stefan Wayne, along with Magic Kuziak, will take the wave around here. It appears for this caution flag with Christian Challenger back up to the point. Two to go up on the pace car here as we come to 122 laps to go. Amongst a lot of the drivers here that continue to cycle around, there's been, as we've seen, a lot of big movers. Peterson plus 27 for the drop of the green flag today. Brodsky plus 18, Wolf plus 8, Banfield now up to plus 20. With that, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have green flag coverage once again of the Michigan 400 for the European split of the major series from the iRacing Esports Network. iRacing here in Michigan as drivers get all set for the green flag. 121 laps to go this time as Challenger hits the loud pedal. We're racing once more for the Major Series European split here from the Irish Hills. It's been a crazy one to say the least so far in Michigan International Speedway as Challenger leads them into turn 1, Walsh in second now with Thompson lined up behind, but also trying to move up and gaining spots is that orange 84, Adam Faciaponte, working with Bobrovsky, trying to get the draft.
Yeah, and for Challenger, he drifted to the outside line, and Olsen Walsh comes to the inside, and here comes the rest of the pack. It's about 8-9 cars. Yes, it is.
And Walsh able to take the lead. You can see some of the drivers tucking to the bottom side. You can see the driver on board of Pastorius also saying the bottom side seems to be the moving line. The moving line moves back up to the top side, though. Walsh getting past as Bobrovsky tries to get the run outside. Challenger works with him, but look who's up to the third spot. The second car on the bottom side, Thomas Peterson. His highest position since staying out on 3 lap-old tires. He nearly pushes up the win to Thompson. 3 wide for the race lead down the backstretch. Challenger on the bottom side, Walsh in the middle. Outside line for Bobrovsky cuts on down and cuts down into the lead, but Challenger still tries to ride the bottom. Bobrovsky pushed up from the top side, closer to the wall as they're side by side for the lead.
Yeah, these guys are slicing and dicing. We're not even halfway through this race. I would say very, very eager running here as Joshua Wolf will now pile to the inside line, or he'll pile to the middle line. He'll basically make his own line, and he will throw himself through with the overspeed that he got up into second position. My goodness me, what a maneuver from Joshua Wolf. That was a bit hairy, but you know what? These guys are ready to rock and roll. For some reason, they are 3 by 3, almost giving the fans a salute here, but you couldn't see. Just as exciting as that is, these cars are starting to wash out a little bit already here as corners 3 and 4 are in the shade and 1 and 2 are in the sun. So Joshua Wolf in just 1 lap will have gone from 6th position to 1st.
It's the coldest the track has been since we started today, 101 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's continuing to drop at the clouds. Wolf leads for the first time today. Remember, had to take a faster pair after being involved in a big one on lap 3. Challenger trying to ride the bottom side. Walsh is currently on the outside line. But amongst the other drivers trying to move up, Cordell Colon is also trying to make a charge in the 812 machine. Look at him in the Grizzly Motorsports machine ride the bottom line. He's now side by side for the top 5.
Yes, and also this has been so dramatic of racing. I haven't been able to do my normal sarcastic stuff. That's unfortunate, but no, well, for me anyways. For Christian Challenger, he is now trying to do, he almost was hitting the yellow apron line, but I was going to say these cars are basically 2 by 2 by 2 by 2.
Caution flag is out. Thompson gets turned around. And that brings back out the yellow. That again is the 58 of Riley Thompson. And was involved, I believe, with some of the drivers we were keeping up with. Take a look on the replay. This moves him from the top 10 all the way back to 26 after the spin.
And you know what? He has only picked up just a smidge of damage on that left rear quarter panel. Cordell Colon didn't really pick up any damage in turning him around. It was so light a touch. I will say Riley Thompson had the overspeed. He was going about 8 miles an hour faster, and when we were doing 180, that's a lot. Coming off a corner exit, and Riley Thompson had to make the decision, am I going to hit Adam Faciaponte, or am I going to try to move to the inside? Tried to move to the inside. Cordell Colon was just there, and I will say, Justin, that could have been a massive incident, but thankfully it was not.
Yeah, if they were still 3 wide like they were, say, a lap ago in that part of the field, that potentially could have been the big one-part dose. But either way, caution flag is out. This is going to be helpful for guys like Joshua Wolf, though, because, again, he had to take the faster pair earlier on today, has charged his way back up to the field, and all of a sudden is now the race leader for the first time today here in the 80 bracket of the lap total.
Yeah, very, it literally was. I want to see, we're going to have pit lanes and stuff like that, but I almost wish we could get a replay of his maneuver, really, through the field. He was in 6th, and in about the span of 2 corners through the middle of the racetrack, he got himself up to 1st and has held it ever since. And I don't know, Justin. We'll see if he's able to hold it here. He slides into his pit stall. He does kind of brake a little early, so he might have had a slow entry here as he's parked right in front of Putzglias, and here comes João Valverde as well as the car is getting their work done. Christian Chalnier, everybody getting 4 tires. Nobody looking to do anything else as it's Chalnier. Will potentially keep the lead, will be taking the lead, and I think, yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. So a conservative pit entry, pit stall entry, Justin, has cost Joshua Wolf the lead, but he's going to be starting outside row number 1.
Indeed, depending on how things shake up here, but take a look at this on the replay. This is what you were talking about. Again, the maneuver to get to the lead was just about a few moments before that. Cutting up the middle, 3 wide, essentially, to get himself to the point. Remember, he had to come from the back of the field, essentially. He had to charge his way back up into contention for this race. He was 7th before the big one. This is what you're referring to here, I believe, around this lap.
Yeah, I think this is actually, this is the setup here. He's on the outside, and since there's nobody on the inside, he's able to pull the inside, and he has so much speed, I think he just kind of looks at the situation and goes, you know what? I'm going to see if I can do that again, only this time I'm just going to hang in the middle. You can see the middle. He's picking up that draft right here in the middle, so he goes way to the outside, swings the car weight around, and here he comes. He's going to cycle right between here. Now, you can only imagine. There's, what, 3 feet, maybe 4 feet on either side here, and this is at 180 mile an hour, and now he'll just continue. He goes, well, you know what? This is working out. I'm just going to keep doing this. And so he's able to get basically the draft all the way through the field, and Bravorsky ends up getting the call a little bit late. He almost cut the nose off of him. He realizes it's too late that Wolf has the speed, and then there, just like that, that is how you make yourself go from the top 10 to the lead of the race.
And how about that? It was talked about by many drivers in real life, including guys like Jimmy Johnson. This package you need to be aggressive in. That time, Wolf was aggressive, got himself to the lead. Will now have to start 3rd. Reason why I say that? Look who stayed out. It's the 777 of Kurt Crum. He's elected to stay out on the racetrack. Again, this would be a plus 35 from where he started and was around the 20s before the caution flag, I believe, for Bombshell Motorsports.
So this is kind of like what we saw earlier with Thomas Pedersen, where he used this to kind of get up. Yeah, and you kind of depend on there being like a maybe 10, 15 lap run, and then another caution, and that kind of resets everything. Well, I mean, if you're looking at Thomas Pedersen, I mean, when he did it, he started in 33rd, and he's been running in the top 10 ever since. It's a really a good way, I think, to make the positions here. You stay out, yeah, you cycle back 5, 10, 15 positions, but as long as the car hangs tough, you can really capitalize on it.
Yeah, that's the main thing. On top of that, though, can he get the yellow at the right time to get on a proper cycle? Because we ran a bit more laps compared to the last attempt at staying out on older tires. And he will indeed stay out. 1 to go is on the pace car. Crum will be in control of the field, heading to the Geico restart zone this time by. Chowder will start on the outside of row 1. Wolf in 3rd. Walsh and Fascia-Ponti round with the top 5. Bobrovsky will start in the 6th position here. But, man, oh man, it's been a crazy one once again. These restarts have been wild and getting more and more like that as the track temperature has started to dip down as the race has progressed, Cam. Eventually, though, it's going to, I think it's going to come down potentially, if it keeps on going short run, to who's got the best fire-off speed.
Yeah, absolutely, and I will say this has been an absolutely wonderful race, and the track temperature is almost 10 degrees less than what we started. Before we get the show on the road and the little things, first of all, instant powdered coffee can expire, and second, yes, you do need the microphone in front of you before you try talking.
Wait, what about the powdered coffee?
It does expire. I will tell you, it is just, yeah.
Okay, if you want to support Cam, send him some fresh powdered coffee. I don't know how it tastes, but apparently expired stuff
bitter.
does not. Okay, bitter it is. Crum, already heading to the loud pedal. This might not be what he would hope for, though. Green flag is out. Here's the question, though. With Michigan International Speedway, if you jump that early, there is a risk, Cam, of getting a black flag for jumping the pace car.
Oops, somebody got turned around.
And we have a car around that was again into turn number 1, and it's still in the bottom of the apron. It's the number 7 of Peterson. So Peterson got turned inside the top 10. Here's the reason here. And it looks like a very slow start and then a major gear issue.
I almost wonder if something's broken on that car. Because he is...
Trouble lead group in live action, too. You can see the money shift still for Peterson. But in live action, Walsh just got turned in front of the field inside the top 3. We'll stick with it because they were trying to go 3 wide with Crum. And this is what happened on your screen. Again, Walsh is the car on the outside.
Oh, no. Just a little bit of that contact with Kurt Crum's machine sent him upward, but he did save it. He was able to maneuver the car so he didn't hit the wall, and then the entire field coming at top speed just is able to get right on by. And so Oyson Walsh, this is kind of worst case scenario. We just had a caution. He's already back to 16th position, and now he's got left side damage on his machine. But Walsh is already, you can take a look at him right now. There's the front 3 cars, yes, as it does look like it's Chalnier, Wolf, and Vavorsky. Oyson Walsh, meanwhile, he's 3 wide with I would say lap cars, but they almost look like lap cars because that damage is not slowing Oyson Walsh down at all. He has already cleared 3 or 4 or 5 cars once he's gotten his speed up, but this top 3 battle here, it's kind of new faces.
Yeah, Challenger has been the most consistent face, but Wolf has been a newer face. Bobrovsky has led a few laps. Cologne is looking for his first lead lap. Wolf takes the race lead at the point this time by for Torque Freak Racing as he moves on the bottom line. In fact, there's a whole freight train of drivers trying to pass on by the eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series competitor. Shutter, though, able to move back into third. Second grouping is led by Pastorius and Fasciaponti. And as you mentioned, Walsh is now back to 15th place after that incident we seen a couple laps ago. Drivers back to single file for the top 4. Make it side by side for second as Challenger tries to take the outside quarter panel away from the 10.
You know, it almost seems like these cars have gotten looser, which is not what you would expect to happen with a track that's cooling down, but that is what it is, apparently. But the inside line for the lead is starting to come into its own. Trevor Vavorsky almost had the inside line for over Joshua Wolf, but I will say, where is Oyson Walsh? As everyone goes by the stricken car of Kurt Crum, Oyson Walsh, he's in 15th position right now, and he's running to the inside of Luis Arria, and Riley Thompson is locked in behind him, and he almost gives him a shot going into the corner. He has got Matthews Bandola, the 113 machine, up ahead, and Walsh, he is on a warpath. He started this in what? I think 18th, 19th position when he got his car straightened out, and now he's up to 15th in just 2 or 3 laps with a wounded car.
And look who's also trying to help, and that's Riley Thompson, one of his teammates, that is also trying to move back up through the field with a little bit of damage of his own. So that time, the car on the outside of an area nearly hit the outside fence as they try and get by them and gain a couple more spots on the circuit. Again, that's now for 13th position on the racetrack. As that's all settled down, the lead group has also gotten a little clustery here and there, we should note. Challenger is back up to the point. However, they've gone back and forth with Wolf, Pastorius, and Bobrovsky. They're side by side for third now with Cologne and Fasciaponti that wants to re-enter the conversation. Moves by one, not just one, but 2 cars on the outside in the Toyota Camry.
He hung that thing way to the outside. I was expecting that to go 3 wide for a minute there, and he was able to just shoot around the outside. It seems like no matter what line you take, there is speed in it. There's speed in the inside line, there's speed in the middle line, and there's speed way up top on the outside. National Adam Fasciaponti finds the hard way. What happens when you do find the speed? He will get himself turned around, and he collects Trevor Vavorsky, and he gets shot to the inside infield, and he'll have to spin that car around. And I think that could have been a lot worse, obviously, but But I will say for the damage that he has, really, the splitter didn't catch into the grass or anything like that, thankfully. But really, he's just got some rare damage to hold on. You can see he's just got loose, clipped that wall. He's trying to save it. Nothing you can do.
Thing is, the part you see him bobble up the track and get up that, basically push up like that, there is a bump on the exit of turn 4. He hits it right there, hits the wall. So that ends up adding some damage to the 84 machine, drops him back to 27. And we'll have to see how it will do aerodynamically the rest of the day. Again, bad damage to the left rear as well as the right front. But caution is out, and of course, this 73 is still in the race lead, as it's been a majority of the day so far as we approach the halfway point of this race here Cam. Christian's been looking strong and has been, honestly, one of the few drivers that has been in the top 5 the entire day.
I would say pretty much it's Chandler's car and Oyson Walsh's car, at least it was. But I will say before that incident, Oyson had worked himself up into 11th position. So he is already net 8. Now let's see, is he going to take the time to let the crew to fix up that 842? I personally would. I'd want to get that car up as good as possible. Actually, I don't think he's used his fast repair. He wasn't involved in that incident, so he most certainly could get that car fixed, but it doesn't look like he has used the fast repair. So just like that, he's gotten his 4 tires. He's waiting on the fuel. Yeah, I think he's waiting for the pit crew to do some fixing here as the majority of the field goes on by, and they'll pull the fender out and send him on his way.
Yeah, you see a lot more drivers also getting some repairs though, as well. The 84 Fassi Ponte, Walsh has done his damage. The reason why I mention this is, while you mention, of course, splitter doesn't get caught, etc., etc., the aerodynamics of the car with this package are so important, where if you damage that any of the front fenders like that, it can be a difference of a couple miles an hour, and it takes away your ability to suck up to the back bumper of a driver, which in turn means it makes it nearly impossible to pass, Cam.
Yeah, definitely, and it makes it very hard to try to run that inside line, which Walsh was doing for quite an excessive period of time. So Walsh is obviously out in a way, but he is well in the back half of the field, I think. I'm sure once the ticker runs by, we'll find out where about he lays. But Justin, well, it's a good thing this isn't a 50% race, because this has been absolutely fantastic, and we are just hitting halfway. So Chapter 2 is just opening up, and it's already looking like it's going to be a barnstormer.
Should note that the driver in front of the leaders, Peterson, will take a wave here. Remember, he had the money shift, was forced to take his fast repair for the race. He is 1 lap down, even with the wave. We'll also have Travis Henderson on that same lap cycle, but the driver that retake the race lead in the pits was Joshua Wolf, because Challenger had the same times, essentially, that lost Wolf his lead last time. 1 second longer in the lane, 9/10 longer in the pit box was the difference between coming out first and coming out second. And as we've seen, the driver that's been in control of the field coming to the Geico restart zone today has surprisingly been able to, for the most part, be able to keep that said lead for at least a couple laps before the draft starts to come in.
Yeah, I would honestly say the only driver that hasn't has been Christian Challenger, oddly enough. You'd think with the strong car, but no. Well, and obviously with Kurt Crum, but he was starting on old tires. Which, by the way, unfortunately for him, that did not pay off. He's a lap down. But yeah, I will say... Yeah, well, he had to, because he picked up the damage from the incident there. But I will say, it'll be interesting to see how this all works out, simply because with Chandler being kind of the only driver to not have really good restarts, how this is going to work. And Travis Patterson will obviously take the wave around, so it'll be up to Joshua Wolf and Christian Challenger. Now, will people be able to call Joshua Wolf? Because if I'm remembering correctly, in the encyclopedia of the brain that is me, which isn't much of an encyclopedia, that's not a compliment, I'm pretty confident Joshua Wolf is really good on restarts.
Yeah, he's looked really good speedy in terms of the restarts, as well as guys when they've been up the front, like Walsh, like Thompson. It's just a matter of being able to keep that lead. Again, that has been a major difficult thing. But I think in part, though, it comes to how trimmed out the setups are, essentially. That's a term that's discussed with how the driver set up, say, in qualifying. And we see that a lot in real life, and we've seen that talked about a lot in recent weeks, too, with this Package of the Peak series. Do you feel like Wolf's more trimmed out for that short-run pace compared to Challenger, or am I seeing this the backwards way?
Well, I mean, I have to think of what the aerodynamic load of what happened to Joshua Willis's car when he was running in the middle and he was passing all of these cars. I would say that maybe instead of trimmed out, it's trimmed up, because he was able to hold that middle line and drive all the way through with the momentum. So I think Joshua has a bit more of a momentum car as he'll take the green.
Wolf in control of the field to the Geico restart zone. Pace car coming off the racetrack. As they all group up again, the Geico restart zone does work here on the iRacing service. As Wolf hits the gas, underway we go once more. And a huge jump for Wolf on the bottom side, already pulling away. And Challenger had a great start on the outside. He's going to have the opportunity, if he chooses, to potentially block that 921 Alex instead, to work with his teammate on the top side. That is Yarvo Verde, who has now quietly worked his way back to the top 5. Luku's also now in the top 5. Redar Anderson, for the first time, is making it 3 wide for second.
Yeah, and Joshua Wolf, I mean, normally you expect to block the charging lane, but what's going to happen when there's 3 lanes? Which one do you block? As Cordell Cologne, the 812 machine, starts coming to the inside, and also Tom Dreiling is coming into the picture one more time, finally, as a pusher. Whom is he going to push as Cordell Cologne? Just it transfers a little bit of his speed to the 48 machine as Joshua Wolf, and Joshua Wolf will start sliding up to the track. I was expecting Wolf to slide up to the inside. They're almost going to look like they want to go 4 wide for the lead of this race just as we pass the halfway point.
And Anderson, who took 2 tires on that caution flag, is trying to make it 3 wide on the top side. Instead, we'll have the tire slippage come in. He drops away from the battle. But Pastorius is able to pull off the slide job and take the lead. Wolf trying to give him a shot. Challenger trying to ride the top side. Working now with that red 893. Well, Cologne tries to ride behind on his own on the bottom side. Lots of craziness here on this start this time by.
Yeah, and Pastorius will slide on up the track, and he basically takes all of the momentum, which is a perfectly valid, but is dangerous, because one of these times, if Joshua Wolf doesn't give him the shot, he's going to get the shot from Christian Chandler, and Chandler does not want to get involved in any of this, I don't think. I think he's seeing just how dramatic it is, and he wants to get safe, so he wants to work his way through this as quick as possible, and Tom Dreiling wants to hook up to the rear back of this one. Ain't nobody getting away from this, Justin, because even after 4 or 5 green flag laps, everybody is still packed in together like a sardine can.
They're 2-3 wide through the field still, and still trying to figure out where they can run and where they shuffle out. One of the drivers also that are now on the move, Shane Norton's up into the top 9, while to the inside goes Wolf, trying to take the race lead again, yes sir, from Pastorius. Now again, who's going to control it though into turn 1? We've seen multiple times that lead change hands with this package off the starts, while Challenger makes it 3 wide with Cologne along with Anderson. That again is for 3rd position. They're shuffling behind. There are cars trying to move to the back, I should know, to try and get away from this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen some cars basically what would be considered in the internet culture noped out of this, I think they might not be wrong here. Riley Thompson now moving to the inside line. Christian Chandler almost tried to make it 3 wide for the lead there, and he almost lost not only his left front fender, but his right front fender, and other than that, it all seems to be working out somehow for now, because if anything happens, it's basically going to be the entire top 10 as they are 3 by 3 by 2 by 3 through corner number 1 here. I don't know what has happened to this track. Oh, I see what has happened to the track. We've gone back up in temperature. Track temperature is back up to 109. I would almost say that the hotter it gets, the racier it seems to get, which is kind of not how you would expect that to happen, but that's what is. And here comes the 893 on the outside. outside, and right now it's Hayden Pastorius with the lead of the race.
The question is, again, how long? Meanwhile, Anderson has been looking really good, surprisingly, on the 2 tires. That, again, is the first driver to try that strategy all day that has still held firm inside the top 3. But Challenger gives the shot to the driver on the bottom side. 95 laps to go as Challenger gets the huge run on the bottom. Multiple drivers slide up the hill as the 73 slides up to the race lead.
And it does look like, I believe, Pastorius has a little bit of left front damage, so when he tries to take that deep inside line that he likes to do, it really tracks the car out, and that bleeds off a lot of that speed, and Chandler, who doesn't have that issue, is able to just come onto the inside. But I will say Pastorius does seem to have a drag car, because he is able to close up in the draft like nobody's business. And here comes Andreasen, the 893, the Scandinavian driver, pulls to the inside. He's now comfortably in second position with, well, I guess it's no surprise here, Oysen Walsh has made his way through the pack, through the field again, and here he comes, and his car not only looks strong, looks like his crew was able to fix whatever they needed to fix on it, because here he comes, and just like that, it's a flashback to 100 laps ago, because it's the Oysen Walsh and Christian Challenger show.
0.2 of a second quicker last time. By this time, just a tenth quicker, having to check up for the 73. Walsh has been able to cut his way from the back end of the top 30 up to third position. Now tries to attack for second, does so with the driver on 2 tires, and Anderson letting him on go. So Walsh back up to the top 2 once more, while they continue to go side by side, fourth on back. Should note that car in 4th position at one point here, Cam, was a lap plus down to start the race. It was involved in some of the incidents early. Shane Norton for V Apex Racing Group has quietly moved up into the top 5 position in the 95, just behind these top 3.
Yeah, I would say that how many storylines have we had in this race already, Justin? I mean, normally when you have a longer race like this, it tends to follow a pretty good archetype, but man, this race is just going back and forth. And the storylines just keep on revolving. They keep changing, and it has been absolutely fantastic to see whether cars they sink back, or they come back up to the front, or they charge their way through the front, or they take 2 tires, or if something happens to them and they work their way back to the front. This has basically had everything, and I will say for Joshua Wolf, right now, this might not be his time to shine, because he is back up to 8th position, and it looks like Gel Valverde wants to get on the inside, as well as Brian Barney, the 55 machine.
Yes, indeed. Look at that now into 10th position. Barney was also involved in the big one early on in the 55. So the Apex's cars all of a sudden are starting to cut their way to the field. We've mentioned Banfield's up inside the top 10 a couple times, and now is on his way towards the battle, shaping up for 8th in front of him. Again, that is now Wolf, that all of a sudden is starting to really lose some speed in the 48. That's in part because the driver in front, again, that orange and blue machine of Wolf, does have a little bit of right rear damage that is allowing, well, first off, the side draft to happen, and second, for Barney to try and reel him in.
Yeah, most definitely, and it's just that little bit of draft, and he's got the draft of both cars. But meanwhile, back up to the front, it's Christian Challenger with the 73, and it's Oysen Walsh, the 842, and it seems like when these 2 cars hook up together, they really pull away here, because look at the gap that they have pulled. Remember, when Walsh was not up there, it was a melee. It was a knife fight in a phone booth, as it were, which would be a fairly difficult thing to do, I would imagine. But once Walsh has gotten back up, it seems like the strength of both of these cars allows them to really pull away. And Shane Norton, who's slotted himself up to 3rd. You've got Andreasen, who's only on 2 tires, up in 4th. And then Tom Drayling, who's been kind of hovering around that top 5, top 10 all day long. He's up to 5th position. And here comes Riley Thompson, just a little bit on the inside, but he has to bleed off the speed. And it has been interesting. And also, Brian Barney, by the way, has gotten by Joshua Wolf.
So Wolf is dropping back. You see that battle at the top middle of your screen, in fact. They're still side by side though behind though. Valverde's now on the move all of a sudden. 39.8 last time by compared to for Pastorius compared to the 39.3 of Valverde. Again, that's now for 7th spot as 381 tries its hardest for the Kinetic Racing Machine to get by the TDR car on the outside line. Tried to push him a touch bit higher that time and just barely nearly clears him on by in the corner exit. So they're shuffling along. They also have Riley Thompson also now trying to make a pass. This will help a little bit with the draft the Kinetic Racing Machine potentially.
Yeah, most definitely. And as things have slightly quieted down, which has been interesting, to say, normally you would expect it to be racing a little bit like this, single file, a little bit of haze. But I will say they're coming up to the rear of Adam Fasciaponte, the 84 machine, who's damaged a lap down already, or he'll be coming a lap down. Not much he can do there, unfortunately, for the 84 machine. As far as the storylines go, his story hasn't been that good in this second half. But Walsh, I think he's content, Justin, to just sit in the back there. As I will say, I've been looking here at the who's who of manufacturers. It's basically all Chevys. There's one Toyota, and then there's one Ford, all the way up to the top 15. As there is a 3-wide action between João Valverde, Brian Barney, and Hayden Pastorius.
Looking on board, by the way, of the race leaders here. Going back to that battle, though, now for 7th. Again, Valverde now back to 2 wide with Pastorius. Again, you can see chaos in front. Caution is out. Thompson has hit the 06 adrenaline as multiple cars try and take advantage of evasive action. The caution comes out for the battle for 5th after Thompson gave a shot to the back end of the 06 after he got loose.
Yeah, and Drelling, unfortunately, there he's now marking his words here. But for Riley Thompson, I think I see what had happened here. Yeah, that car just got completely loose, just with how close the 58 was holding on. You could almost see, as Riley Thompson closed in, the rear damage that Drelling already had. The aero looseness, I guess, which as a term I hate saying because I feel like such a tool saying it, but that's what it is. He closed in so much that it basically took the air off the rears, and which slowed him down, and then therefore Riley just unfortunately just had to clean him up there. But yeah, so that is we're on caution, what, number 5, I think, or is this one 6?
We're at least into the mid-portion of the single-digit numbers, have to at least say that. But the caution flag brings everyone back to the pit lane, and it's still potentially a 1 to maybe 2 stopper. Would say more realistically a 2 stopper, we should say, if we go green. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few drivers try and stretch to 40 if they can somehow find the fuel mileage. Most drivers have been only able to get it to around 35-ish laps on fuel in the Cup cars throughout this entire draft package's life cycle on the surface. But everyone again down the pit lane. Lots of drivers again stuck a lap down plus as Challenger comes out as the first one off the lane. Walsh, Norden, Adrianson, pardon me, just side by side with Norden. Norden gave him the spot though for 3rd, so that worked out for the 2 tires, should have to say.
It definitely paid off, absolutely. But it's an interesting thing to note here. If any of the other crews, any of the other drivers have a crew chief or a spotter or something like that has been looking around, I will say Andreasen, whilst he's cycled back a little bit, he certainly did have staying power with those 2 right side tires.
2 drivers have spotters, for reference sake, and Magic Kuziak, pardon me, in the 20 machine. Brian Barnes also has a spotter. That is Bob Beltrami in the spotter stand for them. But as the drivers cycle behind the pace car, once again, 83 laps to go this time by. But take a quick break. You're watching RaceSpot TV, the iRacing Esports Network, for the European split for the Michigan 400. Welcome back, everyone, to iRacing Esports Network and RaceMod TV's coverage of the Major Series Michigan 400 from the Irish Hills of Michigan. It has been a crazy one, once again, to sum it up here for the Major Series today. Justin Prince alongside Cam Walsh, Hugo Weeds in the director's seat for today's action. Drivers getting ready to restart with 81 laps to go, Cam, and it's been, again, you mentioned it, the Challenger and Walsh show, so to speak. They've been the strongest cars. However, every other driver third on back has been shuffling all day long. That's a great response there, Cam, as we get ready to go to the pace car into turns 3 and 4. Challenger's in the lead, Walsh is in second, Norton in third with Andreasen in fourth position. Barney and Wolf round out the top 6. Pudaklis in 7th. And Mateus Dandola, for the first time, is inside the top 8 today. We'll be with David H. Baker, along with Show, rounding out the top 10 positions. Pace car is off the track as they roll their way to the Geico restart zone. Onto the pedals they go. Green flag once again back in the air at Michigan. And this time a good start from Walsh, along with Challenger to keep up. This time going single file the top 4 positions. First driver side by side for 5th with Barney and Wolf. However, on the restarts all day long, the bottoms prevailed. That will help Barney try and make it now a 3-4 car battle for 3rd position side by side for P3. Leaders single file. They're 3 wide though just behind them. Big checkup though, as it looks like trouble for the 55. Couple drivers forced to come down the pit lane. It looks like they might have to serve black flags potentially. So both Barney along with it looks like Valverde, yes indeed, do have to come down the pit lane here. That was in 16th and the top 5 respectively that end up having to come down for what looks like stop and goes. Either way, they're now 2 by 2, 3 rows deep for the battle for the race lead. Andreasen tries to run the outside line inside Challenger. Challenger working with the back bumper of Walsh. Wolf giving the shot to the red and black machine on the top line. Side by side once more into turn 1 as they continue to fight aggressively. It's a pack of Chevys versus one Toyota. That Toyota, the first car on the outside line, as they're now 2 wide. Again, 3 rows deep for the top 6 positions on the circuit. As this has all gone on, Valverde has just ducked his way out of the pit lane. He is the first car a lap down in 30th position. Driver staying on the lead lap was Brian Barney as they continue to shuffle along. That's forced to 3 wide just behind the battle for the lead. Challenger leads at the stripe this time. Meanwhile, Wolf back inside the top 5 at the cooler air. Norton rides on the bottom once more. Pudaklis also tries to get into the conversation. Cologne also shows that short run speed. Track temp the lowest has been today, 100 degrees Fahrenheit for the drivers, with the major clouds circling above Michigan International Speedway, this 2-mile circuit. And the aggression continues to build up. You can see Walsh is sticking with that bottom line, but it's 3 wide just behind him. Cologne dives to the inside, rides below the first seam. Can the Grizzly Motorsports machine make that seam work for one of the first time today? No. He'll fall back in track position. Will they stay now in a 3-car fight? Walsh still works with Challenger on the bottom side. Andreasen still uses the outside now, continues to work with Wolf. Bit of a bobble now from Andreasen as that sun starts to come back out on the exit of turn 4. That allows the top side to reel back in. Take a look though at some of the Irish drivers trying to shuffle. You can see some of the drivers trying to find some air with the temps. Well, one driver in Pudaklis tries to find a hole to gain spots. The highest Pudaklis has been all day long today for Kinetic Racing Europe. Trying to shuffle his way around the V-Apex machine to the outside. Caution flag is out behind him. Multiple cars spinning out. Claude Berval involved in the caution flag. Couple others also involved. Bandola, who was in the top 10 the first time on the restart, also involved, brings up the yellow flag once more, and a multi-car incident, 2 of which were some of the Kinetic Racing cars. And you can see on the replay how much shuffling went on. And it started, I think, there with that 113, again, was the middle car, sandwiches the car on the outside, couple more get ping pong. Here is the aerial shot, though, to see exactly what happened. Again, that is Bandola. He tried to come up, slams his teammate into the fence, and ends up collecting Claude Berval as he ricochets back down the racetrack. That brings out the caution flag once again on lap 126, under 75 to go. As that was all going on, guys like Joshua Wolf were trying to gain position, while Claude Berval had nowhere to go in the 56. Can-Am drivers already used a fast repair today, and that's going to be severe damage on the front nose of that Ford Mustang, and will lose him all the track position he had gained. Once again, caution flag is back onto the racetrack here with 74 to go this time by, meaning everyone will have an interesting strategy call to make here in this one. As we've seen a few times with these quickie yellows, drivers have either taken 2 tires or stayed out. This time, though, everyone ducks down the lane. Again, back under the caution flag once more here, Cam.
Yeah, and again with the whole microphone in front of your face thing. But yeah, it was we had one big one to start off the race, and this is kind of similar to it. But however, not everybody has those fast repairs, so you're going to have quite a bit of cars with a little bit of damage there, and this is kind of not what you wanted to see. But for the most part, though, our lead pack is still going to be our lead pack, and Christian Chalmier might be able to get shot out here by Dave Walsh. No, not going to happen. So Wyson Walsh will continue to be in second position.
So all the drivers coming out of the pit lane. One should note, though, remember Brian Barney? He was one of the drivers that had served a black flag coming to that restart, Cam. He's going to potentially have the option to stay out here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes it here. He was the last car on the lead lap. Also staying out this time by, at least, was Jared Morgan. So those 2 drivers will have to see if they elect to pit or if they elect to take the track position.
I mean, at this point, I would probably take the track position, just because we've seen everyone that's taken that track position. Now, they certainly aren't dominating leading cars or anything like that, but they've gone from being around the top 25, top 30 to being in like the top 10, top 15. So why not? You're in the last 73 laps to go here, so I figure, you know what, it's all right. It's probably a decent decision as long as you don't bring out the caution.
Morgan does come down to pit, however, and I'm not surprised again about this, Barney does indeed stay out on the track after having to serve the black flag on the last restart. Remember, he was just finding his groove and got in the top 10 about 15-20 laps ago in that 55. Will now be the control car in this upcoming restart here. Had to serve in the box 4 seconds in total here. So now with 72 laps to go this time by, it's been again an interesting one to say the very least. We've seen some major differences. Let's talk about a little bit about gearing. There is some slight variation some drivers can take, it appears, for today's race. Very slightly different. One's better on the starts, though we've seen. One has taken a couple laps to circulate into the 6-0 and the 6-4 specifically.
Yeah, and sorry to kind of cut you off there. I kind of normally we see this turn out to be a bit of a bigger thing, like if you think about Charlotte or you think of Homestead or something like that, where these cars you can almost tell just on a lap by lap basis how different they are. I think it's interesting here at Michigan, the differences are more subtle, so it takes a lot of laps to really show the differences between these 2 cars, the 2 different archetypes of car that you would have, whether it's a long run, short run, high side, low side, etc., etc. And it's been interesting to see all of this coming together here, and I'm looking forward to this restart specifically. I mean, you've got basically all of the action players, the people that seem to really thrive on the melees, the traffic melees, and then of course you've got your two cars that have been dominating basically this whole race, except for that very near miss, I would almost say, for Dave Walsh, Oyson Walsh, where he almost had lost the entire plot, crashed into the outside wall, and now he's come back. So it'll be interesting here to see. And you also have to think, as the pace lights go out, you're at that point, Justin, where you might have to start thinking about fuel saving, because what happens if we have this long race, lots of cautions, and then we end up with a green flag run all the way to the checkered?
You took the next point out of my mind here, actually, because there's a chance some of the drivers, in fact, most of the drivers who just pit this time, can potentially make it a one-stopper from here. Split it about 35, if they can get to about 36. It'd be close, but there is a chance they can make it a one-stopper from here on out.
And wouldn't that be the final crazy thing to happen at Michigan? But this has been an absolutely fantastic race so far, and I am just been so I have to keep my eye on the track temperature, because when it dropped down to 100, you could really tell that the cars were changing. But either way, here we go. We're ready to go green here to take lap 130.
Yes, indeed. Challenger is on the outside. Brian Barney is the control car, the race leader in the 55 on the inside. Row 2, Walsh, Andreasen, Wolf, Norden round out the top 6. Pace car is off the track. Barney this time trying to bunch the field up, get them to check up. To the Geico restart zone they go. Green flag back in the air. We're back to racing here at Michigan. A decent start for Barney, and that is the start I think he was hoping. Have the drivers take a guess where he was going to go, rather than have them hit the loud pedal before they even reach the Geico restart zone, as Walsh is the driver that gets the biggest boost out of 2.
Yeah, I would say Brian Barney has probably the most standard restart that I'm used to seeing here, where the inside guy gets the jump, sweeps up high, and then cuts down low. But now, just in Michigan, in this format, everybody piles on, because just it's kind of like that momentum thing. If you get a little bit far ahead, that means everybody's got that much more distance to draft up to you. Joshua Wolf will take the point right now, as Christian Chandler probably in the most hazardous position he could possibly think of as of this race so far. He was running 3 wide in the middle, but now he's sorted himself back out, and there's a new contender. It's David H. Baker, the number 33 machine, as he has now moved himself up, and he is also 3 wide with Dave Walsh and Brian Barney.
It's getting crazy up at the front. You see the 3 wide battle. It's continuing to shuffle, with Barney now getting shuffled on back the grid, while Challenger retakes the race lead on the fresh tires. Having a move by Wolf, also moving by is Andreasen. With that draft, Walsh also now dogpiling to line up on the bottom line. That is all ditching Wolf on the top side, but he's now going to get some help. David H. Baker in the race sponsor car jets in. One car scrolling into turn 1. Trouble into the corner. Big crash. Caution flag is out. The second big one of the day collects Adam Fassi-Ponti. That all started again with the 770 machine that got moved to the bottom of turn 1 and comes up and collects the field.
Oh no, this is exactly what you didn't want to have happen. This is Louis' area. This has happened to him again, coming off of the corner of 4, but however, coming into the corner of 1 here, there's Puticlis and Brian Barney right there, and that is just a massive incident. Nothing Louis could really do there. Even if he'd straighten the car out to try to throw it to the inside wall, no matter what, momentum was going to take him to the outside line, and my goodness, poor Adam Fassi-Ponti. I hope he doesn't race with VR, because my goodness, that would probably make me a little bit sick to my stomach there, doing a little pop top. But you know what? For the most part, though, I think this was 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 cars involved out of this whole thing, and that is just unfortunate.
And a lot of them, though, Tier 2 Cam, used their quick repairs already in this race. So for some contenders, this might be day done. You see a lot of drivers now in the pit lane with lone motors having to take the tow truck. A major wreck that's going to shake up the field once more here at Michigan. And on the bright side, this helps the 55 and Barney, because now I wouldn't be surprised if we see most of the field come in. Now he's going to also be able to take the one-stop situation as well, whereas the wave around, or staying out rather I should say, that was going to be very difficult.
It was, and everyone is going to be coming in, which we only ran like 2 to 3 laps. But you know what? I think this is more of a fuel window. I wouldn't be surprised to see people taking 2 tires. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Radar Andresen takes 2 tires or something like that to try to maybe jump to the outside here, as Joshua Wolf will conservatively still pull in. He hasn't really attacked his pit box, which is fine. Actually, a lot of these guys are just very casually just pulling into their pit stop because they know that that's concrete to the inside. They don't want to skid the tires. Either way, it'll be a 4-tire stop for Christian Chalner, and a couple of cars driving on by. There is Ryder Andresen, and there is Joshua Wolf, and actually, Oysen Walsh will get on by too. So a horrible pit stop for Christian Chalner.
Yeah, a couple of the drivers again took 2. That was Andresen and Wolf who did that. So that we've seen Challenger also drop back. He had a 40.7 in the lane. That is also 16.6 of that in his pit box. And the reason, as again he was trying to stop in the stall, he might have took it a little too conservative maybe in the 73 machine. It took about a second before he got on the jacks once he got in the stall. But the driver who stayed out in all this, by the way, you see the 44, that is Troy Anderson. That has taken a gamble here. We'll have to see if he does indeed stay out on the track this time by, though.
Well, I mean, we were only green for, was really 4 laps of green. 3, really, if you don't include the run up, the green flag and getting up to speed. No, actually, Troy will come on down this time by. But he might have just wanted to get either the point for leading a lap, which actually I don't think he was. He did. But
I think it's more so that damage on the right front to cut you off there. Pardon me. A lot of drivers might try and stay out because they can stay in a little bit longer compared to coming in the first time to be able to get all that damage repaired on the race car. He's got a significant amount.
Yeah, and they'll get to work on the right side of that number 44, the turquoise and purple unorthodox motorsport machine. They'll of course get the tires and the fuel in, and I mean, even then, this does push the fuel tank 1 lap further. That could potentially have a big reaching effect here. Now, this very large incident happened pretty much, what would you say, 10th on back has been completely make them all dice, throw them in a cup and throw them as far as you can, and that is basically what we have done here with everyone from 10th on back. And there's going to be names that we haven't really seen all day long that's going to start coming in through the field.
Yeah, guys like Corbin Solmonson, he started 34th, is up to 15th after that. Niskanen, we've seen him be a really good driver on the road courses for Vamsha Motorsports, has been dealing with damage in 17th now on the track. Jared Morgan, who again came down with 2 to go last caution through, up to 18th again. Jean-Francois Arsenault is now up to 20th spot in the 50 car. And of course, we now see Kuziak back up to 11th with all the carnage that happened in his Ford Mustang. So again, this is going to shake things up a little bit. We also see on top of that, Colin Martzov up inside the top 10 for the first time since around lap 20-ish of the day today in the Hanson Brothers Racing / Gaunt Speed sponsored Chiefs car. So a lot of contenders coming up into the conversation as the lights go out, and drivers on 2 tires will lead them to the green flag once more.
Now, what that does mean is that when the restart happens, both lanes are going to be having that right side only start. So really, there's either a couple of things that could happen. We could have a slow start, but nothing really crazy, or alternatively, a really crazy start with both cars in 3rd and 4th wanting to get by and then deciding to whether they're going to go outside, inside. You don't know. So we can only cross our fingers and hope that we're going to have a nice restart here. But you also have Cordell Cologne and David Baker's there in the 3rd row, Shane Norton and Marzolf in the 4th row, and then rounding out in the top 10 is Brian Brian Barney, and it'll be the Kusiak car. So really exciting and interesting to see here just how this is going to play out, as we'll be starting our green flag on lap 137 of 200.
64 to go when the green flag flies up at the stand. Andreessen back in the control of the field. Wolf on the outside, both of them on 2 tires. The drivers that prioritize the grip with the 4 tires, Walsh and Challoner in row 2. David H. Baker in the race spot car starts in 5th in the 33. Rounding out the top 6 will be Cologne. Pace car drops off. Cologne taking a massive gap from the back end of the top 4. We'll see what he decides to do with that massive gap. Instead, stays away. Green flag back up. Andreessen with a goods restart this time in the 893. Back up the speed they go once more here at Michigan.
Yeah, and he tracks out to the outside, but Dave Walsh was able to just pull into the inside just enough to make him check. And now is Joshua Wolf going to take this 3 wide, or is he going to give him a shot to the rear? Yes, he does. That's a straight-up bump draft there. He's pushing him. All right, well, you know what? That's fine. That's just no risk at all of wrecking the entire field, Josh. But Andreessen will take the speed for that and push on down to the inside lane. But I have a feeling Oysen Walsh, Justin, once he gets up to speed, is going to continue to run that inside line with David Baker. And I almost think that Josh Wolf realizes that that's what's going to happen, and he's going to just continue to push Andreessen and be like, look, you know, I either get moving or get moving out of the way, because Joshua Wolf, I think he's got the speed, and here he goes. Nope, he's going to give another shot to the rear of Andreessen. So they're working together, and they've somehow beaten the 4-tire push, which is kind of impressive.
And it looks like Wolf is saying, enough pushing. I want the race lead. Tries to get the clean air to cool down the engine and as well up to the point. Can he try and clear by, though, is the question, though. Get to the lead lap. Still can't get clear. Challoner threads the needle and then some up the middle. 3 wide for second. Challoner moves up to second spot on the top side and looks to charge the outside. Yes, indeed. New race leader, Christian Challoner.
Yeah, Challoner has got his way right through it. You haven't really seen him take the risks like that before, but Cordell Cologne has followed him, and Cordell Cologne is now moving to the inside line. He'll take the inside lead over as Joshua Wolf is now cycled back into the 3rd position, and Cordell Cologne will he track all the way up? And here comes Dave Walsh. Are they going to make it 3 wide? Are they looking for 4? Nope, they're not going to do 4, but it'll be 2, 3, 2, 2, 2. As far as this entire top 10 is basically doing a crowd salute here. That's how tightly packed these guys are, and Cordell Cologne will take the inside line. I think he knows Joshua Wolf isn't really going to have the grip to power him onto the inside, but however, Dave Walsh and Hayden Prestorius cars.
And then somebody's turning around. Multiple cars around, involved is Barney. Show is also involved. The 7 hits the walls hard. Peterson, Niskanen involved. Caution flag is out once more on lap 140. And another big one. This happening just inside the top 10, where David H. Baker was trying to defend on the outside in a 3-wide situation. And well, that Ford Mustang, the yellow and blue one, ends up making contact.
That is very unfortunate. I was really hoping that was going to keep on going. It looks like Brian Barney just tracked a little bit high off of the corner exit, and the middle lane was just a little low, and they were just close enough to make contact. And once they hooked, there was nothing they could do. And poor David Baker, he didn't even see that coming. That just really came out of nowhere and really popped him, and you can just see the chaos that unfolds. Right behind, and unfortunately there are some drivers who had really nothing they could do about it. Solemson, one of them, Marzolf, one of them, Lyndon Swaby was able to get on through, however, so good on him, but really just unfortunate here to see this incident happening. But well, it's getting to that point where, it used to be, cautions were a nice breather, but now you almost have to wonder if these guys are just getting a little too racy.
Should note, there's 59 laps to go once they cross the stripe in this pit lane sequence. And you seen something, Cam, pardon me?
No, I said it only.
Yes, only. Yes, that's the main thing. There's still a lot of laps, and they still have to, mind you, think about if they go green, one more green flag pit stop because they still weren't in the window to make it on fuel. So drivers are in the pit boxes once more. This time Barnes and Henderson stayed out an extra lap. We'll have to see if they elect to come in. Swaby also having to stay out. Remember, was the one of the drivers threading the needle. But Challenger tries to get on the gas off the concrete. This time, though, he does get the lead. Cologne, though, second off the pit lane. All those drivers took 4 tires.
Yeah, and I think it was just I think people are starting to realize it, and they're resetting now. This is I would say they need a full reset, as it were, as far as mentality goes. Just get your tires, get your fuel, and focus on clicking off laps. You know, if we had 20 or 30 laps between every single one of these incidents, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, as it were. But really, this is starting to happen every 5 laps. We're going to start running out of cars in the back half of this race. But I will throw it out there that it's getting to that point where these guys, I would say if they do one more looking around like that, I wouldn't be too surprised if there's a finger waggling from somebody up top that says, hey guys, keep it all right. They did great the first 100 laps, Justin, but probably the last 20 or so have been not so much terribly aggressive. Nobody has made really silly mistakes or anything like that, but these guys have just been racing so hard throughout the entire field that is just bound to happen.
And that's, again, what comes down to it with the way you have to race with this package, too. If you race a bit conservatively, you'll end up losing positions and end up pedaling backwards, and by the time it gets back to single file, essentially, that's again where it's difficult to pass. And the way drivers described it is you need to be aggressive to take advantage of the positions when you can do them. If you are too aggressive, you join these drivers that are now cycling their way out of the pit lane and having to get damage repaired, take the last of the fast repairs if they have them, and go from there. So it's essentially, again, the matter of big picture racing that we've seen throughout the day, and now the drivers hoping to focus on that, maybe with 57 to go this time by 58 to go on the board at the moment. Mason Martzoff did stay out though in the 425. Again, we mentioned him a little bit before. He did have a longer stop the last time he was down, but he is going to be the race leader when we get back underway.
Yeah, and it's just, it'll be interesting to see just how this is all going to continue to unfold. It's been, these guys have been in the car now for about 2 hours, and if they had been running green, we'd probably be getting towards the checkered flag at this point, but really, just because of these cautions, they're starting to mount up, and really, you can get pretty tired. Obviously, we're used to multiple hour stints in sports cars and whatnot, but you have to really understand that 2 hours in a stock car where you're racing constantly in the draft around other cars, feet between you, it gets really taxing. And I would almost say that might have something to do with why these incidents that we've been seeing now, just because it gets so mentally taxing. You can't practice 2 wide, 10 deep, both directions.
And that was about to get to my next point with the 1 to go signal here. This is what in my count is the 4th of 5th oval races, either on dirt or pavement, for the Major Series this season. A lot of these drivers have more of a road course racing background. The best drivers in terms of the oval background have been drivers you've seen towards the front. Challenger, Walsh, Thompson, the drivers that are some of the names that are brought up. So it's difficult to try and become a multi-discipline driver, so to speak, and we're seeing the drivers that are the best, that are up the front, are the ones that are the best at adapting, I think. Cam?
Yes.
Okay. Great point. Martzoff, though, is in the race lead here, Cam. As this is going to get interesting. As Martzoff has Challenger on the outside. Cologne in 3rd spot. 4th spot, Andresen. To the Geico restart, so the green flag is out. Martzoff with a slow start. And Cologne nearly gave him a huge shot in the 812 on the back bumper. as they had a hard time getting up to speed this time here, Cam.
Yeah, and we've had a good start here as one lap car all the way down the inside. I thought for a second that was going to come on back up, but no, Marzolf has gotten a good run here, and you wouldn't expect to see Marzolf running up front, so I don't picture maybe him next lap or so. Actually, I thought Cordone was going to take a bite out of Orson Walsh's car, and thankfully he was able to not do that. That would have been terrible. We would have had another big one down the backstretch here, Justin, but really, Orson Walsh has been able to power on that inside line. He had to run to the inside apron, but for the most part, everyone's hugging the inside line, and I'm kind of surprised about that. I don't know why Cordell and the rest of the top line doesn't just go through. They do make a little bit of contact entering one.
Losing a lot of spots now as Martzoff on the older tires, and will drop all the way outside the top 10. Walsh, though, in the race lead down the backstretch. Cologne trying to take the lead as well on the bottom side, working with one of the TDR machines. Pastorius now side by side with his own teammate for second spot. Trying to take the race lead back. Pastorius, shot out of a cannon, tries to go for the lead. 3 wide down the front stretch. Pastorius will lead at the stripe, but it is Carnage up towards the front to take the point away.
Well, near Carnage. Carnage is when they're actually wrecking. It's some pulse pounding moments here, and I thought Chandler was going to want to take it 4 wide, but he did not smartly, as it looks to me like everybody is taking whatever I had said about, patience and starting to chill out and kind of resetting things. They've crumpled that piece of paper up and they've thrown it behind them. But for Christian Chandler, he's done what you need to do. He's powered the outside, used the draft to the outside to power down to the inside through the corner and pop up to the outside. So good maneuvering from Chandler to take the lead here. But for Hayden Pastorius and Cordell Cologne, these guys are really racing like we've got 10 to go. Not too crazy, but they are really power positioning each other here, and I don't know how long they can do that as Cordell Cologne does take a bite. He will spin, but that does bring the caution out, but I will say they probably could have kept a racing, so Flagman, I'm wiggling my finger at you.
Honestly, I think that started off, though, with Wolf, because Wolf started to come down, hit the right front of Cologne. That bumped him down into the Kinetic Racing machine, and that brings the caution out and down the backstretch. Able to avoid the wall, though, so that could have been your disaster.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Josh Wolf. I think it wasn't like he came, maybe the car slid just a smidge. Nah, I think it just... He had held the steering just to a little bit to the left, probably to help straighten out the car, and Cordell was there, and unfortunately Cordell had to react a bit, and he reacted just enough to where he kind of got sucked right into the 666 of Putiklis, and unfortunately that spun him around. But I will say, good car control from Cologne, because if he had done the other way, he could have crashed to the inside wall, or worse, he could have drifted back onto the track and going sideways at speed. So I think Cordell Cologne is happy that there was a caution. He's able to reset, but really they could have kept that green, but that's all right. It resets everything, and we don't have a giant junkyard in one of the corners. So I mean, hey, thumbs up there.
Yeah, that's, I think, the main thing. Should note again, that's where there's pavement, though, on the racetrack. So if there's a car around like that, it will trigger a caution flag. And that time, of course, it did. Drivers back down the pit lane. And now it's going to get curious to see what we do here, because we've seen multiple strategies play out, and it's getting more and more, how do I say this? Short run focused. Would you not be surprised to see some strategy gambles here at this point, the way this race is cycling now with 51 to go, coming to 50?
I mean, I would probably honestly just start focusing on right side tires every other pit stop, because it's getting to the point now, these guys are coming down like every 10, 15 laps, these guys are ended up coming into pit lane. So, I mean, if you can cycle it through to where every single time you're starting at the back of the pack, or the front of the pack, you lose 2-3 positions. But it ends up the cautions are coming out so often, as it is, of course, Chalner and then Pastoris, Wolf, I will say, Dave Walsh, something has happened with his pit stop. I don't know. Oh, he had some damage to repair.
Yeah.
So that's what happened there. So I was wondering why he dropped from second position all the way back. But it's interesting to kind of note here that you really can start planning on these cautions happening. Like it's no longer we're just on a bad streak. Now I would start really focusing the car on that, but also kind of we've been talking about it all day. It's now 97 degrees out on the track, which is chilly. It's not really chilly, but when you think about it and the tires and everything like that, it's getting to be that point where the track it's almost been a 15-degree swing.
Yeah, and this was the trend we've seen when the drivers were here both in June and August on the service, where as the race went on, if there was a mostly cloudy skybox, which we do have today here on the iRacing Sports Network and RaceBot TV, the track would get more and more cooler. And many teams set their cars up for this part of the race. That was in a 100-lap situation, though, Cam. In 200 laps, that is much more different because there is obviously double the amount of laps, but also double the amount of things to think about, essentially, with more pit stops and more potential attrition that can come in.
Well, and not only that, another thing that is important to think about, which we haven't really had much time to think about, is the sim time. What time is it inside the sim service? Because that matters a lot. And it is currently 4:30 p.m., obviously, in the sim time. Now, of course, it's 2:20 in the East Coast. It's 5 o'clock in the UK. But it's 4:30. It's getting to that point where the sun, not getting super low in the sky, but it's getting to the point where the spiking of the temperature is really not going to be happening that much because you're getting in that near sunset sort of phase. Now, obviously, we are going to be finishing this race under green. That's not even a question. But under green, under daylight, and nothing concerning like that. But as far as the temperature changing, that's what's going to be important because you've kind of got the that you're in that time of the day.
Yeah, right now at this point, it's going to get cooler and cooler and cooler. The more these clouds come out, it's not going to be as hot to bring that temp back up. You may see it's 82 degrees, the air temp, for reference sake, right now with the sun currently half out amongst the clouds. 1 to go now as the driver waved around the field. As Adam Fassi-Ponti, that puts him back in the lead lap in 29th position. But again, Christian Challenger in control of the field. Pastorius though on the outside this time in second spot, with Wolf, Thompson, and Pudequist rounding up the top 5. And now at this point, if you are a driver or a crew member watching this, what are you telling your fellow driver and or teammates? At this point, seeing how the aggression level is starting to pick up more and more, and that's leading more and more to stuff down the backstretch.
Don't stuff the car.
Okay. Second point.
I mean, it's really just a lot of these guys expect the people behind you. If you see momentum, expect them to go 3 wide now at this point. It used to be, we've seen Joshua Wolf, a couple of laps, he would really push the car in front of him forcefully. But a lot of these drivers now, they're just taking their momentum and they're reacting to it. And they're throwing the car to the middle line. They're throwing the car to the inside. And so just start really planning on that.
Absolutely right now. We'll see if the drivers are prepared this time. 48 to go this time by. Pace car rolling its way through the banks of turn 4. To the pit lane it goes. Challenger in control of the field once more for Kinetic Racing Europe. He hits the gas, times it up with Wolf. Green flags back out once again here in Michigan. And it looks like that time Torque Freak Racing's Wolf timed it out near perfectly, as he's now got the run to take second spot away, not even into turn 1.
And a mile going down to the inside line here. This is probably one of the most calmest restarts that we've had since the beginning of this race. Joshua Wolf will move his way to the outside line, and Hayden Pastorius will follow him. Pudequist, who has been finding himself all over this racetrack, front and back, he's finally gotten to that point where he could expect to break away. Dave Walsh running that inside in 7th position, and then you've got Andreasen, who I'm presuming is got to be on 4 tires now, is comfortably running. But I will point out here, I will say, I do see a couple of familiar looking blue cars with white stripes, and those are those bombshell cars. They are running in 12th and 13th, and they are hooked up. That's Kurt Crum and Marcus Niskanen. And you know what can happen when teammates get together? They can really maneuver, especially when your lead cars are running like this, where they're going 3 wide down the backstretch.
3 wide indeed. 3 wide, Kinetic on the bottom, top side, Torque Freak. In middle line is TDR. Kinetic Racing, though, with the better run on the bottom side. That allows Challenger back up to the point. But look who's again working with the 73. Walsh again wants to get moving on the bottom side. Pastorius now lines up with the Kinetic car of Pudiclis on the middle line. So you mentioned the team alliance is helping out. Well, the drivers amongst the top 4 are not helping their respective teammates. Have to say that. Bombshell's the only 2 teammates lined up nose to tail essentially in the same line.
Yeah, and even then, it's just if I was Walsh, I would totally hook up with Challenger right now, just because you want to break away. You don't want to get involved in this. We've seen incidents again and again right near up front. So I will say, Josh Wolf, he had that outside line that you saw, and he kind of got ejected out of the top 5 after running really high up. I would say that the top line is just not favorable right now. Perhaps with the track cooling off, perhaps with the sun starting to get a little low in the sky, maybe it's just not as favorable, but he does get the overspeed here, and they'll go 3 wide down the backstretch because, you know, we've seen this work so well before, and the Puticlus will end up nearly collecting the driver's side door of Joshua Wolf, and I think that kind of snapped Wolf to his senses there, and he'll now cycle down behind Puticlus. Nope, never mind. He'll think he'll continue to do about it as they drag race down the front stretch.
2 by 2 make it near 3 wide now for 3rd position. That time by the stripe, Pastorius gets the credit for the lead lap, but Challenger again in that pinkish numbered 73 continues to ride down the bottom. This time it looks like he's actually going to check up a touch as Pastorius now works it. Brad Keselowski's down, trouble behind him though. One of the Kinetic cars gets turned on. It's Pudiclis. Big one into turn 3. Arsenault hits the wall hard. Caution flag is out. And another massive pileup with 43 to go.
Well, you just said he was defending Brad Keselowski and I was about to say let's hope it doesn't turn out like it did and how it did, but that is exactly what happened. I can tell you right now exactly how this unfolded. We're gonna go. Can we get the chopper view in a nice and slow chopper view? I would so I can take out the red pen here. So you're going to see the 921 is holding himself there nice and comfortably. Now on corner exit, you can already see Joshua Wolf is already either planning on passing on the outside or not. He knows that the car is coming up in front of him, the 666, so he's going to hit him in the rear. Now the 666 sees that the leader of the race is coming up to take the top lane away, and it was expecting to have an overrun of momentum, so he slows up. At the same time that Joshua Wolf isn't slowing up because he sees that there's quite a distance here, and unfortunately there's just 1 tap, there's 2 tap, there's 3 tap once with the Pastorius does go to the outside, and after that it's just game over from there. And I will say very unfortunate for Walsh as well. He absolutely got cleaned up running that inside line, and unfortunately just this is 4, 5, 6 cars, but I will say for the most part most of the cars really in that second half of the pack did get through.
Here's the thing though, guys like Wolf didn't have a fast repair available to them. A lot of drivers cycling through. Look at this. One of the Martsovs able to just barely get through. But this is going to definitely shake things up. Wolf, who was after having a big one involved in lap 3, looks like he might be done for the day in the 48, or at least out of contention. No front or back bumper now after that hard hit. Thompson amongst the drivers that have taken hits, now out of contention potentially once more in this one. But drivers have jumped down the pit lane. Pastorius is still the race leader. Challenger second, Andreasen, Norden, Niskanen, top 5. And you can see how many drivers had to get repairs here or took extensive amount of time in the pit lane.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there, and I mean, I don't think that Pistorius was doing anything wrong. I just think that kind of the middle of the lane riding and stuff like that we've seen, it ends up causing this to happen, obviously, A. But B, that's really a tactic you would expect in, the last 3 laps to go, I think, is when you would really start to see that happening, or that green-white checkered type atmosphere. So it's just it's a bit unfortunate, I have to say. But I think everyone tried to play their cards to the best that they could. But yeah, an incident involving the second and third place car, basically right in front of the entire field, that's just always never going to be a good time. And I really do feel for Dave Walsh, Oyson Walsh, because his day is done. And not only that, he was basically one of the only cars that I think could equal Christian Challoner's car in a longer run.
Yeah, you've seen him up on the jacks with not being in the cockpit, so it looks like he's used the faster pair running today, and with that extensive amount, that might be race over, essentially, with how many laps are to go, 40 this time by, so now this kind of really shakes things up again with the amount of drivers who have already taken their faster pair that were taken out, essentially, in that mess. The drivers that might benefit the most, honestly, though, again, you mentioned the bombshell cars, they're now 5th and 6th after the big one.
Yeah, indeed, I was about to say, we're going to have a completely different field running up front if this keeps coming like this. But either way, it's going to be Pastorius, Challoner, Andresen, Norton, Shane Norton. That's kind of a name that hasn't really broken the top 5 yet, but here he is, and it is going to be interesting here. And I think as these laps tick on down, we've only got 40 to go.
Absolutely, right now, 40 to go this time by. So these drivers continue to cycle forward. By the way, with Norton, he has been up in the top 5 in the past 50 laps or so. It's gone back and forth since then to go in the 95 machine. So he's now back up at the top 5 after that. Drivers taking the wave around now. In fact, just one. That is Stefan Wayne, who is in 33rd position. The back to 1 to go we have on the track. Essentially now, though, it's going to be close to making on fuel. Let's just say that with how many laps are on the board.
Yeah, and for me, it's just one of those situations where I'm not even looking for long green flag runs at this point, I would say. Just kind of, I'm in that plan for the worst sort of situation at this point. But you know what, with Challoner starting on the outside, I wouldn't be too surprised if he doesn't try to take the lead and just hold it.
Have to see if he can actually get there is the thing. That's the pressure for sure at this point for these drivers right now as they continue to roll along. Again, we're going to go back in our green, 39 laps to go when we get to the Geico restart zone here on the iRacing Esports Network here at Michigan International Speedway. Justin Prince, Cam Walsh here for the Major Series European Split Michigan 400. We've seen a lot happen, especially in these past 40 plus laps. What will happen in the last 40 plus? Christian Challoner on the outside line lines up alongside Hayden Pastorius. To the restart zone they go once more. The 921 bunches everyone up to the Geico restart zone. Green flag is in the air once more as the TDR machine has a massive boost on the bottom side.
Yeah, what a good start from him, but as we see, they're going to be coming off a corner exit number 2 onto the backstretch. They are going to engulf him, I would imagine, but I will say Challoner has been very conservative on this restart, which is almost not what you need right now, because with how chaotic it has been getting, I wouldn't want to be back there, but you know what we'll see is here comes the car that was originally on 2 tires, the 893 of Rudar Andresen is is going to perhaps try to power the outside line. Christian Chalner will now lock into the back of him, as I do see Trevor Vovorski coming in now to that inside line. He's putting his name in the ticket. Kurt Crum, Marcus Niskanen there, as they will go 3 wide, but it's a fairly safe 3 wide, I should say, as it's 3x3 to 3x3, and Trevor Vovorski almost wanted to make it 4 wide, which that would have almost certainly spelled disaster.
Pastorius trying to defend the lines again, like a restrictor plate race in the old package days. Trying to control the bubble. That time controls the top on the backstretch. This time moves to the bottom for the faster run through the corners on the short run speed. They stays 2x2. One of the drivers that was up amongst that grouping, now that was the number 4, Brian Barnes, forced to check into the pits. Looks like he's got an issue here with 37 to go this time. But side by side, Andreasen trying to take away the outside line, inside line Pastorius, as they work their way off the banking and down the backstretch. The Toyota Camry having a bit more speed though as they head down the straightaway with the help of the 73 at Challenger, trying to give some a bit of an air cushion on that side.
Yeah, and Chalner really isn't pushing like we saw, which I think is fairly understandable, as Pastorius just washed out a very slight amount, but that caused Andriansen to have to check out of the corner momentum-wise. That packs the upper side, which allows Trevor Vovorski to come on in now. Will he force the inside or the outside? He does not, as Andriansen makes sure that Trevor Vovorski understands that we are not going 3 wide just for now, as I think this is probably one of the it feels like it's the longest we've been green for a while, and it's only been green for like 3 laps. But Vovorski will end up bump drafting Pastorius into the corner, so Pastorius is going to be going into the corner with a little bit more speed, which means he's probably going to track out. Nope, car is able to hold it on the tires.
Right now, cars are holding on, nearly door checking though, and that was in third run. You've seen Shane Norton nearly check Niskanen off towards the grass. Niskanen leaving a bit more space though this time down the front stretch, is actually faster. They nearly door check for the race lead though, as Pastorius has to cut below the first seam, able to take the race lead, but the crossover move to the bottom side goes Andreasen, trying to get that point again for in his Toyota Camry, as they're side by side still more. This is now 3, 4, 5+ rows deep for position.
Yeah, and Andresen was, I think he finally made the right decision. Whilst Pastorius has certainly got the speed to be a leading car, he positionally wise, it ends up being quite a bit of a hairy situation trying to drive. You're not sure whether to go up or down, which he's doing everything he needs to keep the lead. But if Andresen is able to get by and really force more of a conservative attacking and more of a pace running, then that would be fine. I will say, Chalner, speaking of being conservative, it's just very conservative here from Christian Chalner. He was able to run right up to the front, right to the front of the pack, pretty much every single green flag run we've seen, and he just seems very content and comfortable. He's sitting back there in third position, Justin.
And I mean, we are in a situation where it's going to be very tight on fuel first off, but second, do you blame him with what we've seen craziness and that race lead? At this point, we've gone 3 wide, and each time has had a situation develop in these past 30+ laps or so. I think at this point, he's just trying to settle down, since I think Challenger's got a long run set to try and burst by these drivers in about 5-10 laps.
I will say, those are some oddly dark clouds looking out the rear window. I know that's just the window there, but anyways, yeah, we're on board here on the roof cam for Christian Chalner, as somebody has blown an engine. Okay, that's...
Oh, that's Norton!
Absolutely.
Shane Norton's blown up for Apex Racing Group. That was in 4th position. So he's had some front nose damage on that car. It looks like with that in the mix of tape, he's blown his motor too high on the temperatures for the 95.
Well, I think we've seen everything now. My goodness, that could have been bad. But thankfully, Shane Norton keeping the car under control, as, yeah, he blew up coming right off a corner exit, and it was a good thing nobody reacted to the smoke. That was a good thing. Nobody checked up or slammed on the brakes or anything like that. They could have certainly caused an issue because you see smoke. You could just see it just coming out of the rear there just before he hits the start-finish line. And just like that, everyone properly going around. And so we stay green, thankfully. But, yeah, that's a really tough break for Shane Norton.
Yeah, again, that was a situation there where you have damage on that nose. It does kick up your temperatures about an extra 10+ degrees. And on top of that, the highest I think you can technically get without reaching that very imminent blow-up zone is, well, in the red, to 290 degrees oil. There was a chance he was up around that range. Bye-bye goes the motor. And all of a sudden, he has seen a top 5 go up in smoke. Lap cars, meanwhile, are nearly cutting down in front of the leaders. That was Patrick Nice that nearly took out the race leader.
Well, I don't know about taking out. I think what had happened is...
trouble down the backstretch. Nice is wrecking lead cars. Solmonson involved in this one. Caution flag is out with 30 to go.
Well, actually...
Wow.
I was about to say, I think what ended up happening is Nice was expecting to take the inside line and allowing the faster cars to go to the outside line, but Hayden Pastorius there, kind of not a last second sort of thing, but he made it pretty clear he was going to the inside line, and once he was on that inside line, Nice ended up washing up the racetrack there, and unfortunately, finally there was a 2x2, and it was Adam Pasciaponte, who has worked so hard after his incident to get back up to the front, just clipping him just enough, and unfortunately for Corbin Solmonson, just getting collected by him, and that started a 2-car incident by the looks of it, as I think everyone else managed to get by cleanly.
That was interesting. I understand Nice wanting to go to the bottom. The problem is that line where he was running is the preferred one on the circuit. So that is going to, again, bring out the caution. And on the bright side, everyone can make it for fuel here if they come down the pit lane with 28 to go this time. So fuel will no longer be an issue from here. By the way, we just got an update here from Norden, it looks like, on the temperatures. 285 was the oil. However, this adds the extra circle, I think, to the point. 266 on water. That is also a point where you can blow up, is if you have both your temps reach red for a significant amount of time, Cam.
Well, I mean, that, and you add some damage as well. I mean, we obviously look at the aesthetic damage, with the front bumper and all that, splitter, etc., etc. There can certainly have been radiator damage, too, that you just couldn't see. That could affect that as well, as Hayden Pastorius comes into pit lane. Everybody's bitten 4 tires, and I think that's the smart thing to do. Right now, I would get 4 tires, top off with fuel, so you don't have to worry about fuel for the rest of the race. And it looks to me like Pastorius is able to get off here. I do see Adam Pasciaponte, however, he came into his pit stop and he came through, but he was one of the cars that spun. So interesting if he's able to somehow pull out here and come up quickly, but I expect him to cycle to the back of the field.
And again, he's one of the drivers trying to have a recovery. Did have a quick repair, but now is going to have a lot of time. Remember, he was one of the drivers flipped upside down in the second big one.
Yes, we know. Yeah, he's the one who, if he's wearing VR, I would have projectiled into the front windshield there. He was spinning like a top. Back in the old days, you would see something like that, and it would just kind of give you a chuckle. But nowadays, when something like that happens, like it is a rare occurrence. For yourself to be flipping around like that, which has been absolutely fantastic. A, but B, yeah, that was a rough ride for him, and he's holding on strong there.
And now he's going to have to try and charge up again through the field. At this point, his timing and scoring continues to try and update here with how things go and cycle out. We'll see where they officially place him as they continue to line up now behind the
leader.
Okay, yes indeed. So that is going to be the situation now for Pasciaponte as the race leader. Pardon me on that one there, it looks like he was amongst the drivers that took a strategy gamble. He just took fuel only, Cam. That's how he got the lead. 8 seconds, I should say, in the stall.
Well, I mean, you would think after spinning out that you would want to get your tires, but he's coming, he's getting his fuel. Perhaps he's expecting to for there to be another caution 4 or 5 laps down the road, which I hope that doesn't come to pass. But yeah, we are going to have ourselves a sprint to the finish, which is going to be hard because we've had a sprint to the finish for about the last 100 laps now.
Yeah, it's been a attrition field past 100 laps. I'm just going to say that at this point. So it's going to be curious to see what they do with 26 to go. And obviously, when you take make a decision like Ponti did, he's expecting this trend to continue here with 26 to go. He's expecting these 5-lap runs before absolute calamity, potentially, maybe.
Yeah, and well, I will say, at this point, at this juncture, everybody's used their quick repair. I don't think Challenger has, but at this point, the knuckles are cracked. The everything is just ready to go. The lights are going to go out on the pace car this time by, as that they do, as the lap cars will maneuver themselves out of the way. Ponti will take the inside line. Pastorius will take the outside now. So here we go, as we will all wait with bated breath to see how the next 25 will go, because we'll have 24 to go this time by.
25 actually, coming to lap 176 of 200 on the board. Again, Ponti in control of the field. Pastorius in second. Challenger, Andreasen, a crumb round with the top 5. Trevor Borski is in 6th. Putiklis, Barney, Niskanen, and Peterson round out the top 10 with Show in 11th spot in this one. So now it's going to be the question, who's going to be able to come away with the checker flag in this one? We're going to see in these next few minutes plus here as the Unorthodox Motorsports Toyota Camry prepares to control the field and get us back under racing here. And now this is going to be a major gamble, though, I think, for the 84 on staying, you mentioned it a little bit, buzzing the tires, heating them up, causing wear. On top of it, we've seen how some drivers have just fallen like a rock on this strategy camp.
Most certainly, and I will say he is starting right in front of Christian Challenger. So if he bobbles, Challenger we know is a little slow on the starts. Not I think because of him. I think maybe that's just how he's got the car set up. But either way, pace car's in. Here we go.
Pace car's off the track. Geico restart zone. They roll to. Ponti gets the gas quicker. And we're back to racing once more here at MIS. The 84 able to get up to 3-4 car lengths from the battle from second. But now the test comes in. That run through 3 and 4, we've seen many times drivers try and stay out. A lot of times they pushed up the hill. Adam's going to push up the hill off of turn 2. It opens up the bottom for a 3-wide battle, 2x2 for position for the race lead. Bobrovsky gives a shot to the TDR machine. Pastorius retakes the race lead. Can't get clear of the bottom, though, as Challenger holds onto the corner panel and side drafts his way up to the point off the corner.
I think Ponti just wanted to get to the front 5 or 10 because he didn't make any contesting for that, which was he got the start, went to the high line, and he's stayed up there. I think that's just where he wants to be safe. He didn't want to lose the field because there really is, as everyone's 2x2, it's really already a gap between the top 10 and the rest of the field here as Pastorius there. I think at this point they've everyone's kind of gone, well, all right, you know what, he makes the decisions, he makes the advances to get to the front. He's aggressive in that manner, and I think at this point Bobrovsky's like, you know what, if you're going to be aggressive, I'm going to bump draft you, because that's kind of what you need to do in order to get this maneuverings done. And Bobrovsky's now running that outside line. Now it is a kinetic racing row number 2.
Trevor is trying to work now with the 666 of Putiklis. 2x2 again for the race lead. Coming to 22 to go this time by as they try and shuffle out. Challenger trying to push the driver on the bottom. Pastorius gets the better run on corner entry. Pastorius looks like he will clear. Yes, indeed. He's the single file. Challenger just couldn't get clear, though, of Trevor Bobrovsky on that outside line. Putiklis trying to give him a slight shot while Andreasen watches along. It's a 5-car scrap for the race lead. Major checkup from the 666. as Challenger starts to come in with the speed on the bottom side.
And Pastorius defending up high. Vavorsky is just, I think at this point he's used to it, but it's going to end up like Joshua Wolf, because Josh Wolf was comfortable getting people bump drafting, and what ends up happening is that if somebody's not used to it, because this is of course the European split of the Major Series, that certainly could affect it. But here we go, as Challenger decides to move to the middle line, and Putiklis sees that happening. He makes the maneuver to help out his teammate, and Vavorsky is left all by his lonesome up on the high side with a little bit of damage on that right rear, so he'll end up having to wash out without anyone pushing him. But here comes the bombshell cars on that high side.
And it looks like they're starting to say, let's push a little bit. You see that's double wide for first, second, third, and fourth. But the first of the bombshell cars starts to come along with the first rather, and Kurt Crum. Bobrovsky also continues to try and push. Now Challenger gets to the high side. Challenger, the series points leader, side by side once more for the race lead. He's won 50% of the Major Series events for the European split so far this season. He has a shot to try and get another for the race lead once more. Has the run down the backstretch, but that 921 not giving up without a fight.
Well, he's going to end up having to, because I think the Kinetic Racing teammate of Putiklis isn't really going to push that hard. But you know what? With that inside line, he's able to just have a little bit of that speed, and he uses the momentum through the corner. And Challenger has to wash up a little bit there. But yeah, Pastorius is just able to hang out there. And now, of course, I wish that Walsh was still here, and of course, Wolf was still here. But you know what? These guys are picking up right where they left off, and Pastorius is really trying to stamp down. He wants to take this victory, obviously, and I think that he has really made it clear that he wants to get the W here, and he's going to really race aggressively when the time comes to make sure that he gets himself that checkered flag. But right now, there's going to be some trouble behind him, because it's two Kinetic Racing cars behind him, and then you've got Anderson, who's going to start coming into the back of the 921.
Make it to his right side, in fact, now. Andreasen trying to go and make it 3 wide on the bottom side. Trying to take the race lead away. Trying to run below the first seat. Pushes up. Forced to check up. That doesn't work. Has not been working all day, it seems, here in Michigan. So that sidetracks both of them. And Challenger now tries to get by the TDR machine. Right on the high side. Can he get in the corner? No. However, he is on the preferred line now, Cam, for this point of the run.
Yeah, I will say, this is where you're going to start to see every single corner exit, that high side really pushing. And now look at this train. There's nobody behind Pastorius to push. Well, Anderson does come down. But for the most part, the field is running the high side right now. They're comfortable up there, and you can just see how much Hayden washes out, and there you go. He has to force himself up to the high line, and Putiklis will maneuver to the inside line and really hug him close to the wall, so he's not able to get a good swing, which allows Challenger to get the momentum. He's got the speed, and Putiklis is right there to check Pastorius, but Pastorius, however, he's just going to run that outside momentum, and now he's going to run to the inside. So we're getting to the point where we are at 15 to go, and these guys are really... you can't blame them for racing hard.
15 to go next time by. Pastorius up to the race lead. However, major cushion. Challenger, major run on the bottom side. Going for the race lead. Side by side, trying to carry the momentum 184 plus miles an hour. Reed takes the race lead. Gives the dirty air back to the 921. Now it's the question of, can he keep it though? We've talked about a little bit the importance of track position, but that dirty air has also been a factor throughout this entire day here at Michigan to try and get passes done. Pastorius trying to use the draft from that air to get back to the corner panel side by side once more for the race lead into turn 1.
Yeah, but we know Challenger is strong on the inside line at all phases, and he uses that to get enough momentum to swing to the outside. That forces Pastorius, if he wants to continue his momentum, to go to the inside, which he does. But I think we've seen so far, Pastorius has a pretty comfortable car, though it does wash out more than Challenger's in that middle line. He barely touches that quote-unquote lane, the black lane that you see in between the apron and the first line there. He barely clips that, whereas Challoner runs it a little more openly, as Anderson, well, he has got to make a decision. Who do you run with? Who do you push? I mean, Justin, I would push the 73 right now because I think that Challoner is a little more conservative, but that could backfire because if you get him ahead, you might be able to say goodbye.
And it looks like he's gotten ahead off of turn 2, back to the race lead, coming to 13 to go this time by. As Pastorius tries to follow the draft of the 73, but can't cut back to the bottom. Andreasen takes it away. Andreasen, though, checks up, though. The thing is, though, Pastorius seems to be more comfortable in that middle line to try and get the run off the corner, while Challoner's been running all the way down to the yellow line. Pastorius tries to get the dive bomb. Side by side again into the corner, retakes the race lead. But Challoner again looking to get the run off the corner once more. Yes, back to side by side on the backstretch.
And interestingly enough, you can see 3 cars having pulled away basically is because the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th is all knotted up. It's Marcus Niskanen, Trevor Vavorsky, and Uldis Putiklis as well. Brian Barney is back on the scene. Adam Fasciaponte is there as well. You have this whole pack really that is racing hard, and I wouldn't be too surprised if that doesn't coming down the road maybe cause a caution. But however, it's important to note here, there is a pack of lapped cars that are trying to make laps. What is going to happen when they get here? They're cars that are doing maybe 175, 176, but when you hear the leaders, you're doing, as you can see, they're running almost like a V flying formation. They're doing about 186 going into 3. That's going to be a 10-mile-an-hour difference, and that is going to be the potential for some concern coming on down the road as we are going to hit 11 to go.
What else is going to be a concern? Those lap cars. There is a 4-car group that they're about to say hello to, and they're double wide at the head of the said group. Leaders taking the high side this time. That second group also double file as you see them shuffle along. Challoner has been taking advantage as that's gone on to pull away by now 4 car lengths of the traffic. This group, though, it's going to get very dicey to see how they get through the traffic. You see Challoner now ahead by a big margin after cutting through the gap. He's now got a 0.4 of a second lead over Pastorius with 10 to go this time by.
You would have expected to see this kind of gap for maybe halfway through one of the first green flag run that we had. Well, really the only green flag run that we had around lap 50s to 70s to 80s. But, you know, we've gotten enough of a gap now. I am wondering how much is the draft, the mile an hour, if we could get the old speed chart up between these 2 cars to see what the mile an hour is between these 2, because they're both running about the same speed, and if he's too far back, Pastorius is, to collect the draft, it's really just going to end up being in the number 73's favor here. So we've got the timing gap, but either way, last lap was a 39.4 and it was a 39.3 for Pastorius, so he is able to draft up, but it's going to be just a matter of if Pastorius is going to be able to comfortably get up there. And you also have to think of you have Radar Anderson.
Yes, indeed. Right now, there's a couple of different variables in. Don't forget, there's the good old-fashioned yellow rake that can come on any time. But the way this race has gone, some of the craziness still in that second grouping. You see that 893 back by about 4 or 5 car lengths from Pastorius. But now the gap is down to 2.25 seconds at the stripe. So it is reducing amongst the leaders while they try and get by Joshua Wolf. This time the lapper stays on the high side. And that's going to end up hurting Andreasen's corner exit, though. He's forced to take a lower arc and get off the gas a touch.
Yeah, and there was a bit of contact between Brian Barnes and Marcus Niskanen. Nothing that they didn't that they had an incident for, but they did make some quarter panel touching. So there is always the potential in the back of the field to have a late caution here, which would push us well near the end of this race. We are on lap 194 of 200 here, and talk about a dynamic finish here. I'm not sure if we were expecting a finish like this where it'd be a 3-horse race.
Honestly, based especially on how the Internationals region went, where it was again a 3-car battle, but a massive crash at the end amongst those drivers where they were all spinning to the line. Now it's going to be curious to see how they do with this 3-car battle. 6 to go this time by. You look back now to where Trevor Bobrovsky is now trying to get by Joshua Wolf. But look who's in the top 5. So on the old tires, Adam Fasciaponte also trying to shuffle. Back to the race leaders we go, though, on board with Christian Schauner's back window as they have caught back up. They have closed the gap again to 0.2 of a second. Now, if you're Christian, what do you do to try and make sure they don't have a shot to make the pass here on older tires now?
Well, all you can do is just drive the line that your car goes fastest on. There's really nothing you can do positionally. I think Christian does realize that his car is the only one that can really touch the, quote, apex here at Michigan, that very, very near apron line, and then tracking back out when you're running solo. You can see Andreessen is just trying to keep speed up on the high side, but without big drafting, without multi-line drafting, there's only so much you can do, and I think that might have been Pistorius' shot with 4 to go here because he got to the quarter panel, and I even think he made contact, but Challoner's car just seemed so planted it didn't even care.
Yeah, Challoner, this is again why I thought if we get this kind of a run, he would have the car to beat. Walsh was, again, we talked about a couple times, the air driver that had speed. Again, though, that is a TDR machine that is in second, still trying to fall in the draft. Andreas Sin trying to find a way to snake his way through. 4 to go, that time by at the stripe. And now, Pastorius trying to take a slight peek. Can't make anything work, though, on the lower arc. In fact, Challoner's much more quicker on corner exit.
Do you risk maybe throwing an elbow, as it were, because he's able to just barely get to the rear, and if you unsettle that car just enough, it might be able to resettle it, but you throw the risk of causing an accident and definitely getting a penalty, which could have bigger season implications as we're hitting lap 198.
Well, on the board now as they continue to roll forward. Challoner last time is 39.3. Pastorius about a couple hundred slower, in fact. Andreasen falling down to the 5s. So Challoner in the clean air has now become the fastest car of the top 3 as the tires continue to wear. 2 laps to go this time by. They will have a lap car they might reach, though, in Tom Drelling this time by, if not on a white flag lap. That might shuffle things, but other than that, it's going to be just amongst these 3. They have grown 3 seconds from fourth on back.
Yeah, but these guys are still right in a hair's breadth from each other, under half of a second between first and third. And actually, where did this momentum come from? Hayden Pistorius was able to throw the momentum to the inside of Christian Challoner, but he gave Challoner more than enough room, and that kind of took his momentum away. But I would almost say, Justin, with only a couple of laps to go, at this point, at some point, he's going to have to start maybe leaning onto that wall as Challoner is just getting a little bit loose. Pistorius is just planting that car to the right rear here as we hit lap number 200.
1 to go. White flag up on the stand. This race is official. Battle for the race win. 3 wide heading into turn 1. Pastorius goes forward. Challoner checks up. Andreasen tries to run below the first seam, forced to check up hard. Side by side for the race win. Can Challoner defend himself on the top side? Makes contact. Huge bubble and a huge save from the 73. Pastorius checks back into line. Pastorius turns him. Pastorius turns the points leader and the race leader. Challoner slides.
He saves it.
He'll hit the fence, saves the car. But Hayden Pastorius will come across the stripe and win for Total Downforce Racing. How about that at Michigan?
Well, after Pastorius gave him that little bit of a shot and Challoner saved the car, as soon as they got to the backstretch there, he basically threw the car right in front of him and said, nope, that's it, you're done. And then right after that, he had so much speed going into the corner there that he turned him around, and I'm not sure how that one's going to play out in any kind of a official's booth or anything like that. But my goodness me, what a finish there. And you kind of got a feel for Andreasen there. Both these cars had made contact, and he still wasn't able to get by him, as Challoner not happy about that one.
You see the initial contact the first time, then they're going back and forth, and that time just turns them. And now that's not going to be a popular finish. That's not going to be popular, and I'm going to have to admit.
I was about to say it might not be a popular finish, but I will say during the cool down lap, Challenger most definitely voiced his unhappiness about that. But Pastorius, for now, will do his donuts.
Again, he is the unofficial winner. I'm going to note that from the contact. Hayden Pastorius will, though, get the chance to celebrate here at Michigan International Speedway in a wild one, to say the very least. It's a common term, but that can be fit well here. Let's take a look at the unofficial results here real quick. Hayden Pastorius came away with the checker flag. Andreasen with that spin moves up to second. Fassi Ponti to third. Krum Vavrovsky in fifth. Barnes, Niskanen, Pukulis in eighth. With that move, it moves to ninth spot for the 73. Again, unofficial, with Lyndon Swabing moving up inside the top 10. Brian Barney came away 11th today after that top 10 run, essentially, along with Cologne and Peterson. Martzloff finished off in 14th. Troy Anderson 15th. Michaud having a rocky up and down day. The Hanson Brothers racing machine, though, went from the top 10 to the back of the field, back and forth to 16th of the stripe. Mason Martzloff finished in 17th. Jared Morgan in 18th. Andy Banfield 19th. Lonnie Finch, the first car lap down, though, in 20th for Can-Am Racing. A bunch of the drivers also had some struggles today. Travis Henderson in 21st. Andreas Robertson in 22nd. Claude Berval, Joshua Wolf amongst the drivers that were also amongst the back. Wolf 3 laps down. Somensen 3 laps down as well, with Wayne and Kuziak also amongst the drivers, multi-laps down. Drivers in double digits: Patrick Neeson 28, Tom Trelling 29, and Shane Norton, after blowing his engine, ends up finishing in 30th. Was a top 5 car at one point. Again, that's your unofficial race results here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have post-race coverage here from beautiful Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. Welcome back, everyone, to the Irish Hills of Michigan here at MIS, and what was a wild edition of the Major Series European Split and the Michigan 400 here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Justin Prince alongside Cam Walsh and Hugo Weeds for post-race coverage here from this 2-mile circuit. We have a lot to unpackage here to start things off. It was one of the craziest, well, one of the more wild and potentially controversial finishes of the season, I have to say. Let's start this from the final lap, essentially, though, because it was crazy, to say the very least. We're going to have to take a lot of pen marks on this one, Cam.
Yeah, most definitely. So right now we're starting on board with Hayden Pastorius. As you can see, they make just a little bit of contact right up top there, and then Challenger goes, nope, I'm blocking this right now. And you can just see the sudden movement of the car. He basically had a little bit moving to the high side there, and unfortunately for Christian Challenger, he cleaned himself up on the nose of Hayden Pastorius, and unfortunately for Hayden Pastorius, that's really not how you want to do things. Now, you see, here's a good view of it right here. You've got, I think this is all set up because of the 893 car. He comes in there and he really pushes Hayden up high, and that really cleans him into Christian Challenger. And once they make contact, Challenger goes, you know what, if that's what you're going to do, because I was against the wall, I'm blocking the entire line. And once he tried to do that, just the momentum carried him a little too far down, so he had to correct to come up a little bit. And once he did that, he had used his speed, and then the front bumpers, the front to rear bumpers weren't even matched, and he cleaned him up right there. So I don't, as far as a race organizer, I have to say that it just gives me heartburn. But as far as a spectator, that was a crazy finish, and really marks a crazy race as well.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting finishes, to say the very least. And up there, potentially, and one of them ones that'll be talked about a lot in the next few weeks, to say the very least here. So again, that ends up getting the unofficial win to Pastorius, and in the unofficial running order, essentially. One of the drivers that had a strong run overall, though, and was up in the top 5 multiple times. We'll first talk with the 5th place unofficial finisher, Trevor Fabrowski. Trevor, crazy race today. Your thoughts after what was to say in limited words, a wild one?
Yeah, that was a blast, to be honest. Really fun. Honestly, I didn't start practice for this race till like yesterday afternoon, and picked it up rather quickly. Didn't qualify super well, but then it was really easy to pass within those first few laps, but then things just got crazy.
Yeah, it got absolutely crazy, to say the least. What was going through your head as the craziness ramped up from, what was a 3 to start, to about 11 by the time we reached checkered?
Yeah, it was, the race was really up and down. And then, I don't know what happened on that last lap. I was trying to watch the replay on your guys' broadcast here, and that's a bit of a tough one to call. That's rough. A rough way to win, rough way to lose. Really just rough all around. But I know back in the pack, or back behind that with Adam and Kurt and myself, it was really, really a blast. So
it looked like a blast. You were looking really good too on the short run. How difficult was it to try and maintain that speed as the race went on, especially since those final laps you were dealing with a little bit of right end damage actually on the back end?
Yeah, our car was, we found out pretty early on in the race that our car was just as fast as anybody else for those first 8 laps or so. But then once we hit that midpoint in the run, we would definitely fall off. We did not have the pace for those guys. I was really crossing my fingers that if those guys were going to come together, it was going to happen a lap or 2 earlier. That way we could have a green-white checkered and really have a shot at it, because I think we were just as fast as anybody else on that short run.
I honestly have to agree. You were actually one of the few drivers I've seen do a bump draft and do it successfully multiple times with this package at Michigan here today. But this is going to be a good points day overall for you on the season. You came in 13th in the standings, and this would be your second top 5 either way of how things shake out in the official running order. The next race, though, we'll see the drivers head off to the Wisconsin State Fair Park, specifically the Milwaukee Mile, 200 miles for what should be an interesting one with the Lotuses. Your thoughts on that race?
Well, one of my teammates, Cordell Colon, he's a big fan of those old Lotuses. Hopefully, what his relative, he doesn't run them competitively or anything like that. He just runs them for fun. But hopefully he can give us a few pointers. But that should be, if this race was crazy because of the racing, the next race should be crazy just for the car and track combination. It's gonna be fun, I hope.
I think it's going to be very fun. I'm curious to see what happens there in September. Before we let you go, anyone you want to thank for being a part of your top 5 finish today?
Yeah, just the team, Grizzly Motorsports. Josh Wolf, team owner, though he doesn't run for Grizzly, he still really helps us out. And honestly, I want to say thanks to Adam. That was a really fun racing that we had. We both fell back to 2 laps down around lap 100 and fought our way all the way back up into the top 5. So that was really fun racing around him. So,
congratulations to the top 5 finish today, Trevor. Good performance.
thank you.
Trevor Borowski coming away with the top 5 today, and what was a heck of a run. And one driver is also looking very happy today, and it's Adam Faciaponte with his first podium in the Pro Splits. Adam, again, a crazy race, and you're a contender much of the day today. Talk us through your perspective.
Well, yeah, like you said, it was a really crazy day. I'm just thrilled I was able to get back through there. Actually, it's my first top 10 even, so I couldn't be happier, really. I even God knows what would have happened if I took tires on that last stop. I accidentally had them unchecked from a previous stop, and I still came through to get third. So I'm just thrilled, and I just want to give a quick shout out to the team. The Unorthodox guys have done a great job all year, and they've really helped me become a better driver, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was a very good race for you. You were, well, before you got flipped upside down at one point inside the top 10 here. How difficult was it to try and cut your way back to the field to put yourself in this position to, again, be back in contention for the top 5 today, even without the tires taken on that last stop?
It was very stressful just because, you don't know, like, okay, is it going to go green this run, or should I wait? Are there going to be a few more wrecks? So yeah, it was just trying to be careful and kind of pick my spots. I got 2 laps back with waiver rounds, and just trying to be patient, use that high side, especially when I had the worn tires. I just really tried to stay up high. And I had a great setup that the whole team really worked on all week. Usually we have a handful of guys that do setups, but the whole team was doing setup work this week, and team practices and stuff. So we really came together as a team, and we did a great job. And I hope my teammates do great in the America Split tonight.
Yeah, based on the speed, your team might have a potential top 5, if not race-winning car, depending on how things shake out. But of course, next race will go to the Milwaukee Mile, an open wheel race, the final one on an oval-specific shaped track. Your thoughts heading into September's Milwaukee Mile event?
To be honest, I'm kind of dreading that one. The team says we're going to do good there, though, so I'm going to trust them. I'm not a big fan of the Lotus 49, maybe just because I haven't run it very much. The only time I've ever run it actually was last year in the Majors race we ran at Silverstone with it. So I like Milwaukee, though. It's a cool racetrack, so I'm looking forward to that. The race I'm really looking forward to is the Bathurst site. I was doing really well there last year and just made a silly mistake and ruined my race. So I'm really looking forward to kind of redeeming myself there. But again, just real happy on the podium, and thanks again to the team. And shout out to Matt. He lost a good friend of his recently, and some of the guys are running a tribute paint scheme. His friend died of cancer. He was born the same year as me, so it really puts things in perspective.
It definitely does put things in perspective. I seen that earlier on today, and it's a very touching tribute to have that on the race cars, I have to say. But before we let you go, is there anything you want to say before we let you go here today?
Hi, Mom. She always watches my races, so just say hello to my family. And again, I'm just thrilled. Third place in the Pro Split for me is really overachieving. So thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for the time. Congratulations on your first podium of 2019.
Thank you very much.
Adam Faciponti coming away third today, his highest finish in the series, and in a pro split in the majors. One of the air drivers that had a heck of a race that some drivers have actually congratulated multiple times over, I think, is standing by with Cam. It's Jared Morgan. While he's finished in just 18th today, he was going up and down to the field and had a wild one, Cam, at some points.
Yeah, and so Jared, as always, we'll finish out the interviews with Mr. Morgan as we normally do. I know you did have to take a break. I think you missed one or whatnot. But I will say, for the most part, you're just right sitting in the back of the pack. You had to dodge a lot of wrecks, basically, the last 100 laps there.
To dodge, yeah. And actually, I haven't missed a race yet since 2015, so I'm still maintaining the longest streak of the series.
Ah.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I didn't have a whole lot of speed, but the strategy wasn't to be quick. It was to survive because the support races last Sunday proved to be wreck fests. So the whole idea was to be 25th or worse until about lap 150 to 170. Got a caution right at 170, and I just dropped the hammer from there. I dueled with Mason the last couple of laps, and he edged me out, but man, that was fun.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you managed to work your way through the wrecks, pick the positions up that way, and you had a good run here at Michigan, but I always kind of like to with the major series, with you having raced this for so long, if in my head recollection, it's probably the first time that all y'all are going to be running the Lotus 49.
First time at Lotus 49, first time at Wisconsin. So
yeah, I was about to
this is
say,
going to be something.
At Lotus 49 at Wisconsin State Fair Park, the Milwaukee Mile. I mean, this is going to be an interesting event here. I have you even started practicing? I mean, to be fair, I kind of want to get on the wheel. I'd like to race in this one, but I wouldn't waste any of our time doing that. But I just you talk about inventive. We have a good race here at Michigan. It's the Cup cars. It's the Michigan 200 laps. It's great time. And then how do you shift gears from one month to the other to go from something that you would expect to race to a Lotus 49 running around a mile-long flat racetrack?
You know, I don't even think I've got the Lotus 49 in my garage right now, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of work. I don't even know if I've got the racetrack. This is going to be an interesting next month, and yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, either way, congratulations, of course, keeping the streak alive. Good job finishing, and we'll see you in Milwaukee.
Yes, sir. And there's a big shout out due to a particular car that is somewhere in the back of the field. And which one is he? Yes, the 842 for following the directions on the back bumper of my Ford.
Well, there you go. So, either way, yeah, there was some of that going on, I will say. But either way, thank you, Jared. We'll catch you on the next one.
10-4. Thanks, Cam.
Yes, sir. And so that's Jared Morgan. Pretty much every majors race we have Justin come on and talk with us. But somebody that we'd certainly like to talk to is Mr. Dave Walsh. Justin.
Yes, indeed. He joins us here. He was a contender much of the race today. In the end, though, was involved in one of the big ones. 43 laps down is where he finished in 34th. First of all, what happened in your incident that ended up causing that calamity up in the lead group?
We were going at it for the lead. I think we were just too wide, and the 48 was bump drafting Aldous Particulus. I don't know what number he is, but he was bump drafting him, and he just hooked him straight into the outside wall and then came down, and I was just murdered on sight. And that was the end of my race after using my fast repair earlier when I got turned going into turn 3 the first time, but managed to save it that time, but I just had a bit of damage from it.
It was extremely unfortunate because it looked like you were one of the main contenders, if not a little bit actually faster than Christian Challoner. You're one of the few drivers I've been able to keep side by side like that with this package in a long time here at this racetrack. How much work was put in by your team to try and give you that opportunity to keep up with Christian and try and battle for that race lead like you did multiple times today, charging to the field a few times, in fact.
Yeah, I have to thank my NASCAR team, PRG, for that. I think we actually did work with Dynamic Autosports Christian's team for Michigan, so I think I was on a very similar, if not literally the same set as him. So I did have an even playing field with him, so I just had to kind of hope I could stick with him. And when the temps were hotter, it was quite nice because we could pull away. After a few laps, we got one run where we almost got green flag pit stops. We had pulled away. It was just kind of us two, and then Riley Thompson behind us. But then once the temps died down, it becomes way more of a pack race. So you're kind of just trying to stay at the front and stay out of trouble. And obviously that's where he did better than me, because I got myself wrecked twice. And he, well, we won't talk about the last lap, but up till then he kept his car nice and clean, didn't even use his fast repair, whereas I managed to accidentally use mine. So yeah, he just kept it clean better than me. But I think on pace I was able to compete with him.
Each driver we've asked this to as the second to last question. The next event is in September. It's the Tony Bettenhausen 200. It's in the Lotus 49s at the Milwaukee Mile. Your thoughts on running the old style open wheel cars at that facility?
Yeah, I think I've driven Lotus in test drive at Indy maybe once. I don't own it. I don't own Milwaukee. I've never run there. I have no clue. I don't know how to set it up. I don't know anything going into that. So I'm going completely blind. I still need to buy the car on the track. So yeah, I have no clue what to expect. I don't think anyone really does.
Absolutely right. Now, I honestly don't know what to expect either when we go there, but before we let you go, is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of your performance today?
Obviously all the guys at TDR. Been unlucky with the results, but what can you do? PRG, my NASCAR team, that's where the setup came from, so obviously to them. And then Mike and all the admins and you guys for organizing the series.
Thank you very much for the time. And that was Osen Walsh, who came away 34th, but was in the contention for the race win for many laps today. The team he was referring to as Ovalside was Pinnacle Racing Group. That has a interesting backdrop, to say the least, with that organization. But before we go here today, Cam, your quick final thoughts before we say goodbye.
Well, I have to say it was a very dramatic race, very fun race. I mean, as far as stock cars, you could expect, maybe the European split. These guys, maybe they don't race it all the time. They put on a fantastic show. The finish, boy, that's controversial, but you know what? That's stock car racing, and I have to say, for the Tony Bettenhausen 200, I'm pretty excited about that. I mean, the Bettenhausen name is very well known in the iRacing service, and well, I'm happy to say I'd love to be there, and I can't wait for that one already. But for the most part, Justin, I think we had a very fantastic race, but one that is certainly memorable.
It's going to be memorable for multiple different reasons, and what was a great race overall in this one when you think of the great scheme of things. But there's still one more addition to the Michigan 400 to go today. The American Split takes place tonight. We broadcast on the Global Sim Racing channel on the iRacing Esports Network. Coverage starts this evening. Official time is set for 7:45 Eastern Time. Amongst the broadcast crew for that tonight will indeed be, in fact, Christian Challoner. So we'll have to see what his perspectives are for that action. But for us here on RaceSpot TV, for Hugo Lees, for Cameron Walsh, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next time for the European Split action for the Major Series here on iRacing.